Chapter 10:25. Xiao Bei and the others came over to see what the old man looked like. They didn't expect him to have such a personality, but when they heard the old man's words, they all looked at each other. Xiao Bei walked forward and pulled on the old man's arm. He asked curiously, "Grandpa, do you know us?" "I don't know you. I've heard of you, but I've never seen you before. I've seen Xiao Bao once, and I've also seen your sister Cuckoo once, far away. At that time, the two of them were as cute as you." The old man's eyes were red. As he spoke, it seemed like he was reminiscing. "Is that so? I look as good as my brother and sister?" Xiao Bei heard the praise and twisted his body in embarrassment. Yes, cute. Our family's Xiao Bei is the cutest. If anyone says otherwise, this old man will fight them to the death. Do you want to eat shrimp? Come, look. I've been fishing for 3 days. I caught them in the cool grass during the day. I've been raising them. Finally, you're here." As the old man spoke, he patted Xiao Bei's head. Then he took the wooden basin that someone brought up and pushed it in front of Xiao Bei. Xiao Bei wasn't stupid. When he heard the old man's words, he felt like something was wrong. Just now he said he wasn't selling, and now he said he wanted to exchange it for a poem. Why did his attitude suddenly change? So he said, "Grandpa, should we eat first or write a poem first? Let's make a deal. I don't know how to write, so Xiao Yuan will write. Xiao Yuan will do it alone, so it'll count as everyone's share. I can only tell you stories and sing songs. Let's agree on how many shrimp for a poem?" The old man's eyes narrowed as he smiled. He nodded and said, "Any amount is fine. Let's eat first and talk while eating. Compose a poem and tell a story. This is His Majesty's Princess, Pan. All right?" The old man saw Pan again. Pan had been brought up by Xiao Bei and was no longer afraid of strangers. In the past, she always liked to hide behind people and poke her head out to look at people. Now, she stood there openly and looked up curiously at the new old man. Xiao Bei didn't know why, but when he saw this old man, he felt very close. He didn't need anyone to protect or search him, and he knew that this old man had no ill intentions. It was very mysterious. So he took the initiative to pull on the old man's clothes and lead him to the place where the tableware was placed. The old man followed, and he even had to match Xiao Bei's pace. When they arrived, Xiao Bei introduced them. "Grandpa, this is Jun, Uncle Emperor's son. He's the youngest and was born on the same day as Pan, Jun, come, say hello." Xiao Bei said to Li Jun. Li Jun looked at the old man. Wei Wei bowed and said, "Junior greets the elder." Okay, but you can't do that. This is Lil Wang, Lil Bei, and Lil Hai. Come over here and try the prawns." The old man was holding the basin in his hand, so he couldn't help but bend over and turn to look at Lil Hai. The group of children gathered around the tableware. Hu Xiao looked very nervous. He looked at the prawns in the basin and thought that they were poisonous. He glanced at the old man from time to time and then looked back at the prawns. He deliberately let the old man see his attitude. Seeing the old man pretending not to know, he said, "This official is Hu Xiao, a military officer in Kaifeng. May I ask where you are from?" "Oh, hello, General. This old man should be considered as a citizen of the capital. I didn't stay in the capital before. At that time, the emperor was not the emperor. Now, this old man has no home. Wherever the main family goes, I will follow. Wherever is good, that is where my home is. A few days ago, Kaifeng was my home. Now that I'm on the ship, this ship is my home. Okay, Xiao Bei?" The old man didn't seem to care about Hu Xiao's identity at all. He was very calm and asked Xiao Bei who was next to him. Xiao Bei nodded. "Okay, our ship is very big. There is a vacant house. Grandpa, if you want to live there, you can live there. But what about your ship? And the person who rowed the ship for you? Carry him to the big ship? It takes up too much space. My family has a special boat. It doesn't matter. Let him go back and tell the master that I am accompanying our family's little ancestor, Xiao Bei and Xiao Hai. The master will naturally be relieved when he hears this." The old man waved his hand casually, but his eyes swept over the deck. He seemed to be looking for someone, but he didn't see anyone. He looked a little regretful. When he turned back and saw Xiao Bei and Xiao Hai, he became happy again. Xiao Bei gave a look to the person next to him. That person immediately went to inform the person who rowed the ship for the old man. Of course, they also had to send someone to secretly follow the old man. Otherwise, they would be too unqualified. Eat. The old man showed a kind smile on his face and pointed to the big prawns in the basin. They are all alive. It's not easy to fish for prawns. You have to find the right place to fish for prawns. Some prawns don't have any meat in spring. They are all shells. Some have more meat. In fact, my fishing ability is the best. I am not worse than your brother Xiao Bao. Let's go. I will fish for you to eat. As long as there is a river, no matter how clever the fish is, I will catch it for you, okay? Okay, Grandpa, you are really amazing. Then do you know where we are going? Will you follow us all the way? Xiao Bei understood the meaning behind the old man's words. He wanted to follow the ship, and he wanted to fish for him all the way. That was strange. Who was the other party? He didn't feel like he was willing to follow him because of his identity. I know. You are going to Jiang District, which is Peng Xian Lake. There are many fish, prawns, and crabs there. There are also other shellfish in the river, waterbirds, and so on. When you arrive, there will be some people waiting there. When the time comes, let them come up. With my old arms and legs, it will be easy for me to fall into the lake. Let them protect me. Don't worry. They will be as loyal to you as your family's protection team is. This time, the old man said more. When the 9 children heard this, they understood. The old man's identity was not ordinary, and he seemed to want to protect them. They understood, but at the same time, they were puzzled. They looked at each other and shook their heads. They couldn't guess the old man's identity. Little Hai looked at the old man and hesitated for a moment. In the end, he did not directly ask about the old man's identity. Since the old man did not say anything, he would just pretend that he did not care. Instead, he was interested in the old man's words. He asked, Grandpa, can you tell me how you know we're going to Jiang District? We didn't tell anyone. This was what Little Hai was worried about. Since the others knew, what was the use of him waiting for them? They had already prepared everything that needed to be prepared, so it would be troublesome to investigate again. The old man smiled mysteriously at Little Hai and said, Don't worry. We know the way, but the others don't. If you go, the people of Jiang District won't be on guard unless someone leaks the secret. The old man looked at Hu Xiao. Hu Xiao was depressed. He was still on guard against the old man earlier, but now he was the one who had to be on guard. He was so angry that he could not help but say, You old man, if you didn't tell me, how would I know? I only know that Lil Bei and the others are passing by. As for where they are going, I don't know. I thought they were going to Luzhou. Now that you mention it, I know that they're going to Jiang District. Someone there is going to be in trouble. How about this? I won't go down. I'll go with the ship. Give me a place to eat and sleep. The old man smiled and nodded. I think so. It said that you, Adjunct 2, have a good aim. Within 300 meters, you can shoot wherever you point. None of your shots missed. With you around, we'll have more protection. Lil Bei, can you give me some face? You're not considered to be absent. We'll temporarily lend you to us. Grandpa, you're really good. You know that he has a good aim. Come, let's cook the prawns. Light the fire first, boil the water, and put a little salt in the pot. It's not salty. Pan doesn't like it. Lil Bei did not care if there was one more person or one less. After all, the more people there were, the merrier. She did not know that the fleet in Jili province had departed. She was traveling at the fastest speed to the estuary of the Yangtze River along the coast. When she arrived at the Yangtze River, she would be able to reach Jiang District ahead of time. She did not know that her own fleet and trackers were moving toward Jiang District. Shu Province's soldiers were gathering at the Iron Chain Bridge. Her explanation was that it was a drill. Ships were joining them from time to time along the way. They were all people from the Zhang family and Wang family. There were also hot air balloons from nearby tourist attractions, such as Hangzhou. They said that this was a drill for long-distance tourism. While the others were busy lighting the fire and boiling the water, Lil Bei was talking to the old man. "Grandpa, do you know where my things are? Tell me, do you think it's easy for me to sell a doll? They bullied me. Although they might not know that the doll is mine, it's wrong to bully a doll, right? Yes, it's wrong to bully Lil Bei. Even if they don't know about this, they deserve to die if they make our Lil Bei unhappy." The old man agreed with Lil Bei. Huh? Deserve to die? Lil Bei was shocked. It's not that bad. If they are guilty, let's talk about them being guilty. If they are not guilty, why should they take their lives? We have to be reasonable. I just want to go and take a look. I suspect that there's something wrong with the officials there. Before we have evidence, we can't convict them. Yes. Lil Bei is right. We can't arrest them first. If we do, we will convict them immediately. Our Lil Bei is the best. Be reasonable. No other doll can compare to our Lil Bei. The old man continued to agree. It seemed that whatever Lil Bei said was right. Xiao Bei, on the other hand, was at a loss for what to do with the old man. He wondered in his heart, what's wrong with this old man? It's just like my brother and sister. Whenever I say something, my brother and sister always agree. But if I say something wrong, my brother will tell me a story when he agrees. The more I listen, the more I know I was wrong. Could this old man be like my brother and tell interesting stories? While Lil Bei was thinking, the water boiled. Lil Bei stretched out his hands to catch the prawns. He was very nimble. No matter how the prawns jumped, Lil Bei could always catch them and throw them into the pot. You still want to hide? Let's not talk about you being in the pot. I can catch you even if you are in the river. Do you believe me? Lil Bei competed with the prawns as he mumbled. The prawns didn't say a word, but the old man said, I believe you. Our Lil Bei can even catch fish in the yellow river with his bare hands, much less pinch a prawn. That's true. Lil Bei wasn't modest at all. He threw another prawn into the pot. The prawn that entered first rolled a few times and turned from white and translucent to red. It was ready to be eaten. It's ready to be eaten. I'll eat first. Lil Bei scooped up the prawn and wanted to eat it. Hu Xiao hurriedly said, Patroller Zhang, I like to eat prawns too. Can you let me eat first? I've been waiting for a long time. The old man said unhappily, I'll eat first. Just as Lil Bei was about to say something, a voice came from behind. Lil Bei, since it's a gift from your Grandpa Wang, you can eat it. Lil Bei paused and turned his head. He shouted in surprise, Mom, why are you here? Didn't you say that the spring winds are too strong? Do you know an old grandpa? Then I'll eat first. The old man stood up and stared unblinkingly at Lil Bei's mother, who was the Jiang Wang clan. The Jiang Wang clan's eyes also reddened. She also stood there and stared at them. After a while, Lil Bei's voice rang out. Mom, this old grandpa used to be our neighbor. We don't have him in the village, right? The Jiang Wang clan finally regained her senses. She quickly walked over to the old man and asked softly, Uncle Sang, why are you here? My dad. Good. Everyone in the family is fine. I didn't want to disturb you, but I heard from Master that His Majesty told Master that someone was bullying our Lil Bei. Master panicked and told me to bring the family's guards and rush over to help kill them. I was afraid that you wouldn't see me, so I waited here. If you didn't see me, I would follow behind and catch some prawns to pass the time. Who knew that I was fated with Lil Bei? She saw me and caught some prawns. Chow, look at your complexion. Let me touch you. Good, you're pregnant again. The family is going to be lively. When are you going to go back and take a look? It's been so many years. Woo. As the old man spoke, he reached out and grabbed Wang Qiao's hand. He placed his finger on her wrist and began to cry again. Wang Qiao also cried. She nodded as she cried. Lil Bei was stunned. He thought for a while and finally understood. He asked, Mom, it's your family, right? Isn't that the same family that my family would send a generous gift to every year? No wonder you let me catch prawns. When I see old Grandpa Wang, I feel good. Then why do you call Grandpa Wang Uncle Sang? The old man let go of his hand and patted Lil Bei's head. He said, because Grandpa used to take your mom to catch fish. Then we would find something by the river and fill a basket with fish. Oh, I see. I understand. Then I'll call you Grandpa Prawn in the future. No, it doesn't sound nice. I'll call you Grandpa Fishing. Grandpa Fishing. Have you eaten the food I sent you? Lil Bei was very good at talking, but for some reason, he couldn't see anyone from his mother's side. I've eaten it. The food is good, but it's not as good as seeing you. The prawns you cooked for Grandpa are the best. Chow, you haven't told him yet? The old man became happy again when he saw Lil Bei. He asked Wang Chow at the same time. No. My husband is busy managing the Ministry of Works all day. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are competing in the martial arts examination. I was afraid that he would be distracted, so I didn't let them send it back. It's the same on the boat. Grandpa Wang, has Dad not done anything in Hangzhou? Wang Chow explained and asked again. No, he hasn't. Master is usually fishing. What he likes to hear the most is about Lil Bei and Xiao Bao. If he can't hear them, he will send a message to the capital and ask His Majesty. His Majesty won't pursue the past matters. It's all because of you and the friendship he left behind in the past. Do you want to go and take a look this time? The old man talked about the situation at home and then asked with uncertainty. Wang Chow thought for a while and nodded. Let's go. Let the children see. It's good that I'm staying behind with my sister. She's also here. Don't you think it's a coincidence? Chapter 10:26. After all, Xiao Bei was still a child. When she heard that she could go to a place with many people, she was very happy. But she suddenly remembered that she had never been to her grandfather's house. What if they didn't like her? Thinking of this, Xiao Bei looked up and asked Mr. Wang, Grandpa Fish, do you think we will be bullied in Hangzhou? Who dares to bully our Xiao Bei? Master can't even wait to see you at home. Your eldest uncle is also disappointing. He married 3 wives and gave birth to 5 children, but none of them are capable. It's fine if they're not boys, but they're not as smart as you, not even a little bit. They either throw tantrums or run around all day long. No matter how many times they are beaten, they still don't remember. When there are people around, they bully people when they go out to buy things. When there is no one around, they don't even greet strangers. Unlike our Xiao Bei, who can go out and be an official by herself. Back then, our family sent a few people to Sanshui County. Later, all the servants of that family were driven out of the house. The more the old man looked at Xiao Bei, the more he liked her. Although she was young, she was sensible and had a sweet mouth. When she smiled, 2 dimples appeared. Her big eyes were like her mother, Xiao, and seemed to be able to speak. Xiao Bei, however, spoke up for her sisters, whom she had never met before. It's wrong to hit a child. If you can't do it well, you can teach me, right? Yes, you can teach me. It's wrong to hit a child, especially one like our Xiao Bei. Not to mention hitting her, even a glare, is a crime. Go back and tell Master that you are not allowed to hit her in the future. The old man continued to follow Xiao Bei's words. I wasn't beaten out of the house. My brother never hit me, nor did he let others hit me. He said that only incompetent adults hit children. Is it true that no one bullied me? I'm not familiar with this place. Xiao Bei asked again. The old man was not angry. He still had a smile on his face. Xiao Bei is an official, a 3rd-ranked official. It's a big crime to hit an official, not to mention ordinary people. Has His Majesty ever hit you? If His Majesty even touched you, your brother Xiao Bao would fight His Majesty to the death. No, he won't. Uncle Emperor is the best. When my family sent a chair to Uncle Emperor always asked my family to make it bigger so that I could squeeze in the seat beside him. My brother is also reasonable. Xiao Bei continued to maintain its kind nature. Little Yuan said from the side, that's because we haven't been bullied. Otherwise, brother and sister would have killed them. Look at this time. We came out with more than 1,500 people. Brother is worried that we will be bullied outside. 1,500? That. When the old man heard this, he knew that something was wrong. The information he received was definitely not 1,500 people. Even if there were 15,000 people, it was still more than that. Xiao Bao had put on the posture of an army at the city gate. Something had been happening there recently. The old man didn't say it out loud. Instead, he looked at Wang Qiao'er. He didn't believe that the most beloved princess in his family wouldn't know. Wei Wei of the Jiangwang clan smiled and said, I didn't tell Xiao Bei and the others. Since I mentioned it today, there's no harm in telling them. Xiao Bei, your brother and sister have sent out the fleet of Jili State. When the time comes, they will stop in the middle of the lake. If you guys are in any danger, get into position and attack. Your aunt and I have your younger brother or sister, so we won't accompany you to avoid being frightened. You have to be careful. Actually, it's not a big deal. You've been used to running around since you were young. No matter how dangerous it is now, it's not as scary as when we were young. If we can really fight in Jiang province, you guys can also learn from it. Xiao Bei and the 9 children were stunned when they heard that. They thought that the officials of Jiang province would be like mice that saw a cat when they went over to deal with them. They did not expect that their brother and sister would transfer the fleet over. The 9 children knew very well that the Tang Dynasty's fleet was actually dominated by their family. The number of ships in their family accounted for more than 80% of the Tang Dynasty's fleet. The fleet of Jili State was the most powerful. It was only stronger than Luzhou because it had to suppress Xian, Luo, and Japan. The ships were large, there were many of them, they were fast, had a long range, and the quality of the personnel was high. The overall cooperation was good. When all 60 ships came over, they were like mountains, forming a majestic formation. Xiao Bei swallowed his saliva and looked nervous. He said, Are we going to war? I haven't learned how to command yet. You only know how to scare me with tripping ropes. Do you think our family lacks battle commanders? And when we were young, did we encounter more powerful enemies? Xiao Yuan asked a key question. Jiang Wang clan glanced at Hu Xiao hesitantly. Hu Xiao suddenly shuddered. He gritted his teeth and took the initiative to say to Xiao Yuan and the others, in the past, your family was powerful, but you could only stay in Sanshui County. At that time, the people of Sanshui County did not support you as much as they do now. Besides, Huayuan County had some foundation. There was no other place. At that time, Luzhou did not have many people. He wanted to support you, but he did not have the strength. At that time, it was not too difficult for someone to deal with your family. Fortunately, there was the Minister of Revenue and the little prince to protect your family. Your brother and sister were dancing on the tip of a knife. Every time they made a choice, they had to satisfy others. Otherwise, they would be doomed. Then, your brother and sister began to use the power of others to fight against others. Little by little, you achieved your family's current status. There are elite troops in the north, south, east, and west of the Tang Dynasty that are loyal to your family. The business in the Two Rivers area, the Great Tang Bank, and the military industry are all in your hands. Otherwise, why are you so carefree? How can you become a third-grade official at such a young age? Is that so? Xiao Hai understood. His logical thinking ability was very strong, and his ability to understand abstract things was not weak. After hearing Hu Zhao's words, he understood why his family had been cultivating all kinds of talents since many years ago. Political, military, economic, public relations, and technical. Everything was to form enough strength to compete with any force. Xiao Bei blinked and said, I was wondering why it was so easy for me to ask Uncle Emperor to become a 7th-grade official with real power. It turns out that it is not only because I am cute. Being cute can only make others like me, not respect me. Just like what Grandpa Fish said, the servant who disrespected my family in the past was driven out with his whole family. Alas, it's so annoying. The brothers and sisters in Old Willow Village are better. Hearing Xiao Bei's words, the old man from the Wang family sighed and said, "This is human nature. If your father didn't get the first place in the state's provincial examination, his family wouldn't have sent people. If he didn't get the top scorer, his family wouldn't have paid attention to him. It's true. When you were born, your family was already very rich. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo made a lot of arrangements in advance in order to wait for you to be born. The cesarean section in the hospital was actually prepared for you, but it was useless in the end. The two of them led the doctors to secretly dig people's graves and cut people's bodies with knives. It is said that on the day you were born, the whole Luzhou was filled with a tense atmosphere. The people in Luzhou said that at that time, they felt that if anything happened to you, the whole sky would collapse. So, Xiao Bei, don't always think that everyone is only interested in you. There is also light in the dark." Xiao Bei lowered his head and thought for a moment. When he raised his head again, he had regained his cheerful appearance. He said to the old man, "Grandpa Fish, no wonder Mother is close to you. You are the best servant. Apart from my family and the inner court, no one will say this to me, but Grandpa Fish, you said it. I know, we have our own house, we can walk on the road, we can float on the water. I also have a big pearl that can be used as a ball. If you give me one now, I can't bear to throw it to the ground, but I can throw it to Mother, when we see Grandpa, don't mention the past. It's all in the past. When you hurt others, unless you are happy, it's better to forget it." Jiang Wang Clan smiled, bent down, and kissed Xiao Bei's face hard. She said, "If you are a little smarter, you will catch up to your brother and sister." "Huh? I'm not smart enough?" Xiao Bei pretended to be dissatisfied. "If you are smart, you won't say everything. You haven't seen what your brother and sister were like when they were young. When someone tried to play tricks in front of them, a smile from them was enough to make them feel ashamed, but the words they said gave them a way out." Jiang Wang Clan's smile became even brighter. "Okay, I understand. I still have to work hard. That's why my family's little bridge isn't easy to cross, right? It was actually used as a tool for swearing. I have to take their money." As Xiao Bei spoke, his hands had already peeled off the shell of a prawn. He tiptoed to feed his mother. It didn't matter who ate the first one, it wasn't poisonous. Hu Xiao followed up and said, "Yes, your family's Sanshui County's bridge to Zhuangzi is even scarier than the bridge of helplessness. The bridge of helplessness is nothing more than death, but your family's bridge is one step into heaven and one step into hell. Standing here, every step you take is like stepping on the bottom of your heart. Step by step, after a few dozen steps, many people feel like they have walked through the past. The older a person is, the slower they walk, but the younger a child can directly run over. Life is so helpless. Who can have a clear conscience? Who can be proud and have regrets?" Hu Xiao said this because he had also walked past that bridge. It was a very ordinary stone bridge without any unnecessary decorations. It was too far away from being gorgeous, and it was also not close to being graceful. But for some reason, when he thought of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, his heart tightened. He had seen with his own eyes that someone had fainted on the bridge and was carried away by the doctor who was guarding there for treatment. When he really finished the entire journey and arrived at Zhuangzi, he felt very comfortable standing there. There was no love, no hate, no regrets, because this was life. Since there was no turning back, he would resolutely continue on. It wasn't heaven, nor was it hell. It was the human world. His heart recalled the past. He was guilty. Who hadn't done something wrong? However, the world was so big. How many people could judge him? This was also why Xiao Bei's 9-member inspection team was feared by the officials. It was because they were qualified to judge the officials and ask if the officials were guilty. "Oh, I understand. In the future, when I catch an official, I'll tell him if you're not guilty, take 2 steps, right? You're actually quite a good person. You joined the army, right? What's the rank of Kaifeng's army?" Xiaoyuan. Xiao Bei liked to hear this kind of words the most. Even if he didn't quite understand sometimes, he could turn back and slowly think about it. If he really couldn't, he could ask his brother and sister. Then he would have a story to listen to. Kaifeng's army is rank 5, lower rank 5. But the army here has a lot of real power. It's more important than an ordinary province's army. Xiao Yuan also had to help Xiao Bei remember a lot of things. It was like a dictionary. Oh, it could also be called area. Lower rank 5? Rank 5 is a little small. Do you want to be promoted? I can promote you to rank 4 and let you rule the Hunan Circuit? No, Hunan Circuit is too big. If you really control the military power of the entire Hunan Circuit, won't you become a provincial governor? Where does Hunan Circuit have a provincial governor? Last time, Uncle Emperor told me to arrange positions for people. Look at the place and position, and don't ask for it blindly. How about this? I'll give you the navy of all the rivers connected to Bianzhou, all the way to the Yellow River or the Yangtze River, okay? You'll be the commander-in-chief of the land and water. You can say rank 4 or rank 3. Do you want it? Xiao Bei was going to give someone else an official position again. After he finished speaking, he looked at Hu Qiao expectantly. Hu Qiao looked excited at first, but then he shook his head and said, "No, I don't know how to fight in water. Although I'm good at swimming, it's not that I'm selfless, but I'm afraid of being killed. I believe that if you want to command the Navy, His Majesty will agree. But one day, when you need me to mobilize the Navy, I can't command it well. If I shirk the responsibility and say that my subordinates are disobedient and stupid, will you agree? No, I'm not stupid. It's your problem if your subordinates are disobedient. If you don't use them well, the first one to deal with will be you. If your subordinates are exiled, you will be beheaded." Xiao Bei gave a definite answer. "That's right. I don't want to die yet." Hu Qiao looked like he was an honest person. Xiao Bei nodded. "Oh, that's right. If I give you the Navy now, I'll be harming you. If I don't give it to you, I'll feel that it's a waste of talent. Xiao Yuan, what do you think we should do? I really owe you. You thought about it yourself, and then asked me. If he doesn't know, let him learn. After he learns, he will know." Xiao Yuan had just peeled a prawn and took a small bite. He felt that it was bland and was looking for someone to get salt and pepper. Yes. Learn. We can learn. So, Sir Hu, follow the ship and learn from the commander on the ship. Don't think that we're a merchant fleet. Even if the fleet from Jili province attacks us, my current team can still fight to the death with them. Who said that merchant ships can't be armed? Who said that merchant ships have to be slow? Right? Follow and learn along the way. After you learn well, I'll recommend you to my sister's military school. It's okay if you resign from your current position, okay? Xiao Bei stomped the deck and asked for Hu Qiao's opinion. Hu Qiao was trembling all over. He finally understood why he was able to protect Xiao Bei and his team and why so many people were looking at him with jealousy. This was an opportunity to reach the heavens in one step. As long as you were capable or had strong commanding skills or were serious in your work, even if you couldn't do it, as long as you were honest, you had a high chance of seizing this opportunity. If you missed it, then don't blame the heavens and accuse others. The excited Hu Qiao looked at the Zhang Wang clan. However, the Zhang Wang clan turned her head away. It wasn't that she couldn't make the decision, but that she didn't want to. The old man from the Wang family said to Hu Qiao, "Sir Hu, the person who will give you an official position is our Xiao Bei, not Xiao Er. I'm willing. I'll learn. I'm still young." Hu Qiao understood. If he looked at the Zhang Wang clan, wouldn't he be implying that Xiao Bei couldn't make the decision? If Xiao Bei got angry and lost the opportunity, the Zhang Wang clan would naturally protect her child. If Xiao Bei got angry, did he expect him to give him an official position? Xiao Bei acted as if he didn't know. All right then. You'll learn as you go. Start with the basics. The commander of my family's fleet must be familiar with every job. For example, if we're heading east, the wind is westerly. The speed of the sail is very fast, and the ship is at full sail. You're the commander. Through the binoculars, you can clearly see the enemy 2 li ahead. Their position is slightly north. It's a fleet like ours. You just have to shout, drop the sail, turn left, and fire from the right. You're dead meat. Because they're going against the wind, they're also turning left. They're at full sail and half mainsail. We're slightly southwest of them, so they'll come over first. So you have to know what our ship looks like, how fast it turns, and the effective range of the cannon. Do you understand? Hu Qiao nodded in shock. Didn't Xiao Bei say that he didn't know how to command? Why was he able to casually give examples when he was talking to him? Then, what do I have to learn first? Hu Qiao asked. Washing the board, arranging the cargo boxes, tying knots, and standing against the wind. A voice came from the side. Hu Qiao turned his head and saw a man who was not even 30 years old. He was very tanned and stood upright with a serious face. He was like a nail that was nailed to the spot. The first impression he gave was only one word: steady. Then it was rigid and mean. I haven't asked? The fleet's commander-in-chief, which is also the captain of the flagship. In the future, you will learn from me and do as I say. I want you to remember the joining points of every piece of deckwood and arrange the cargo boxes of all shapes and sizes neatly. When you want it to open, it will open with a pull. When you don't want it to open, the cargo will not move with the ship. When you stand on the deck, the wind will not sway you, and the waves will not hit you. As such, you are qualified to move on to the next lesson. When the person spoke, he was also very serious and unreasonable. Okay, I'll do it, Hu Qiao said indignantly. He didn't believe that he couldn't do such a small thing well. Report good news. Little master, little miss, good news. In the hibiscus garden, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were eating lunchboxes when a person suddenly ran in and shouted loudly. Zhang Xiaobao put down his chopsticks and said to the person, "It seems that you are full. You are very confident. Speak, I will eat after you finish." Report, I haven't eaten yet. I am hungry. I will eat later. I have good news. The ladies are pregnant again and are preparing to go to Hangzhou to recuperate. Hangzhou Wang family. The person didn't care about Zhang Xiaobao's attitude at all and said with a smile. With a clatter, Zhang Xiaobao's chopsticks fell on the small table and stared at the person. Wang Wan also stopped eating and opened her mouth slightly, because the two of them heard clearly that the ladies were not the same person. Cuckoo, isn't this too much of a coincidence? Why are you together again? Zhang Xiaobao asked Wang Wan. As the saying goes, I can't make a book out of coincidences. The question is, why did we only find out now? Wang Wan was more concerned about this. Because when we go out, we are afraid of our mothers. We are going to have a younger brother or sister again. I guess we will have to start from the beginning again. Do you think it is a good thing or a good thing? Zhang Xiaobao thought of the scene of a large group of children running around. It is a good thing. Xiao Bei's agarwood house can be used. Wang Wan gave a definite answer. Chapter 10:27. Zhang Xiaobao smiled so widely that his eyes narrowed into slits. He liked having more brothers and sisters, the more the merrier. He was just like other families. It wasn't just the aristocratic families who wanted to have more children. As long as they could make ends meet, ordinary families were also willing to have more children. Once they were in their teens, they would be a good source of labor. This was especially so for boys. They could help the family do a lot of chores. By raising more children, they would have someone to take care of them when they were old. Li Longji, who had been paying attention to the Zhang family and Wang family, quickly received the news. He threw away the two memorials regarding the flood control of the Yangtze River and Yellow River. He rushed over to Wang Wan's headquarters and congratulated her. Xiaobao Cuckoo, congratulations. How many children are there this time? The more, the better. 8 or 10 isn't too much. 5 or 6 isn't too much either. Why don't you say thousands or tens of thousands, like fishes? Why do you have to say pigs? You're congratulating the wrong person. This has nothing to do with us. You should be congratulating my father and father-in-law. Zhang Xiaobao was very dissatisfied with this number. Even though it was theoretically possible to have 8 or 10 children, it was still a multiple birth. Li Longji didn't think much of it. I'm not scolding anyone. I'll talk to your father and father-in-law when I'm free. Xiaobao, I have an idea. Zhang Xiaobao didn't reply. He guessed that Li Longji couldn't come up with a good idea. Wang Wan continued to look at the map. It was a military map of Hangzhou that had been enlarged many times. It wasn't to prepare for the military sand table. It was to set up sufficient defenses around the area to ward off wind, moisture, mosquitoes, enemies, and loneliness. As long as there was a threat that had the slightest negative effect on pregnant women, it would be blocked outside. Li Longji was very depressed. In the entire Great Tang, only Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan dared to ignore him. Under normal circumstances, Zhang Xiaobao should have replied with a "What's your idea?" This is what this emperor is thinking. This emperor will ask the two madams to help spread the knowledge of conservation. This emperor will also give a push to encourage the people of the Great Tang to have more children. This emperor has asked around. There are some places that are poor. The entire region is poor. If they give birth to a boy, they will keep it, and if they give birth to a girl, they will throw her away. Sometimes, I wonder how many Xiaobei they have thrown away. Girls are also people. If the Great Tang is really full of men, then wouldn't it be over? Hurry up and perfect your plan to subsidize childbirth, and then immediately spread it throughout the Great Tang. Li Longji suggested such a method. This time, Zhang Xiaobao reacted. He shook his head vigorously. I can't control my mother. You can talk to my mother. She agreed. That's her own business. I can help. However, I have to say in advance that I will be helping you with your matters. Advertising, as well as interacting with the people on the streets to talk about the policy. All of these will cost money. The guards will cost money. Organizing the venue and distributing maternity products to pregnant women will also cost money. This money. Xiaobao, you're right. I'll have to trouble your family again. This emperor will remember this in my heart and will definitely repay you. When Li Longji heard that it was about money, he immediately followed up on Zhang Xiaobao's words. It was impossible for him to fork out the money. Zhang Xiaobao took a look. Seeing that it was indeed the case, he agreed. All right, my family will fork out the money. I will need to borrow the resources of the local government to help organize the event. I will also need to fork out a portion of the money to send gifts to the pregnant women in the area. As for the advertising fee, it will belong to the local government. You can advertise such a thing? Xiao Bei and the others have already gone to the local government. Is there a need to tell me? Li Longji did not know who would advertise, and he also did not know what gifts would be sent. Xiao Bei and the others have the power to monitor, arrest, and convict people, but they do not have the power to order people around. Naturally, there will be advertisements. Day Hospital's local medicine is free of charge, but the ribs, fish, vegetables, and diapers for the children have to be bought. The businesses involved can advertise their product's quality and price advantages. The most difficult thing is to change people's views. Otherwise, it will be very harmful to the pregnant women's health. Zhang Xiaobao suddenly remembered this matter. It was very serious. Not to mention now, even when he and Wang Wan were together, there were also some people who kept the tradition. In the end, there were complications such as diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, gynecological diseases, etc. Li Longji realized that he had encountered a problem in this field that he was not clear about. Like a student, he sat up straight and asked, Indeed, there should be businessmen who advertise. I saw that Xiao Bei and the others used something that looked like underwear. It was made of paper. Even the children can use it. Wang Wan put down the map at this time. Xiao Bei and the others only started using it after they were 2 years old. Paper diapers are not for them to use casually. Also, the purpose of giving it to Xiao Bei and the others was not to let them pee casually. It is to keep them warm, and when the air is humid, bacteria will come into direct contact with their bodies. They only use it once every 2 hours. Can ordinary people afford to use it? We can't give it to them even if we give it to them. Now that there is a lot of cotton, we need to use pure cotton diapers and wash them frequently. This way, the children will not get rashes easily. The most important thing is not this. It is the diet and hygiene during pregnancy and confinement. Now that the medical school's research is out, we can't stick to the previous methods. When Wang Wan talked about this, she seemed very helpless. Li Longji really did not know much about this kind of thing. He was only in charge of making people pregnant, but he was not in charge of taking care of and delivering the child. The only thing he could do was to think of ways to get what the woman he liked to eat when she was pregnant. If she liked to watch a play, he would get someone to act. If she wanted to hear him play the drums, he would play the karma drum. As for the pregnant woman's body, he did not care. Now that he heard what Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan said, it seemed that there was a lot to know about pregnancy. He asked, for example, "Madam, I will talk to His Majesty. You can continue looking at the map." Zhang Xiaobao continued and said to Li Longji, for example, there is a tradition in many places. It is called a custom. When a woman is pregnant, she has to raise chickens. When she needs them, she will eat eggs and chicken. This is not wrong. It ensures nutrition because cows and sheep are too expensive, not to mention deer. In the past, the cost of raising pigs was not low. They only knew how to feed pigs with grass and food, but they did not know how to rear pigs. In the end, they gave pregnant women and confinement women chicken, eggs, and millet to their heart's content. Then they fell sick. Usually, they can't eat so much. Meat is too big, so they eat it all at once. The thin ones become fat, and the fat ones become fatter. What's wrong with that? Children need to drink milk. Women need to eat more to get milk. Li Longji understood this. Yes, nutrition needs to follow. But who said that nutrition is meat? If you eat well when you are pregnant, the child will grow up, and it will not be troublesome to give birth. Now, there is the technology to perform a cesarean, but who is willing to always perform a cesarean? Look at how the dishes sent to you by Savant's restaurant are usually matched. Isn't it to let you have a balanced diet and live a few more years? Look at how I make meat for Xiao Bei and the rest. It's not that my family can't afford it, but I can't let them eat it. Sometimes I have to make some wild vegetables for them to dip in sauce. For every type of food, Cuckoo and I have to tell Xiao Bei and the rest a story so that they won't be biased. It's the same for pregnant women. Eating too much meat is not good for the body. Zhang Xiaobao gave an example of Xiao Bei and the rest, as well as the food that Savant's restaurant matched for Li Longji and the people in the palace. Li Longji suddenly understood and nodded lightly. He said, "Xiaobao, you are a good person. No wonder Savant's restaurant sent me all bland food in the few days after the New Year. There was even coarsely ground cornbread, and there was no honey in it. The food was delicious, but it made me think that there was a problem with the person in charge of Savant's restaurant. He even got someone to test for poison twice. Usually, when Savant's restaurant sent food, it would all go straight to my mouth. No wonder." Continue. Li Longji told the truth about the poison test. He was very embarrassed. It turned out that there was no problem with the management. They were worried that he would eat too much meat during the New Year, which was not good for his body, so they adjusted his diet. If they really continued to send meat dishes, there would be a problem with the management. Zhang Xiaobao really didn't know about this. He thought that his godfather was afraid that he would misunderstand, so he didn't let anyone mention it to him. Also, during the month of confinement, the most common time is that you are not allowed to bathe for a month. You are afraid that external evil will enter your body. This is because the medical system in the past was not good, so we could only use a conservative method. However, it is to nourish the bacteria. This matter has a certain reason, but now we don't need to use this method. Cuckoo, I will talk to Her Majesty outside. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he greeted Wang Wan. Wang Wan glared at Zhang Xiaobao. "I'm not a child. What are you afraid of? There is nothing that can't be told to others." "All right, you can't tell everyone everything. If the emperor doesn't keep secrets, he will lose his officials. If the officials don't keep secrets, don't say useless things. If the emperor doesn't keep secrets, he will lose his country. You guys can talk. Don't worry about me." Wang Wan interrupted Zhang Xiaobao's recitation of the Analects of Confucius. "Xiaobao, are you saying something that goes against ethics and morality?" Li Longji looked around. If there was something wrong, It was better to say it outside. No, it's mainly because we are not doctors. It's about a woman's physiological problems. Actually, it's nothing. Let's talk about business. Why can't a woman bathe during confinement? First, it's because the change in temperature can easily affect the body. For example, when you catch a cold, it's cold. Second, when you bathe, even warm water is not as good as the secretion of the woman's body. When a woman gives birth, no matter what she does, she will get injured. There are injuries in the joints and in the uterus. In the past, medical science couldn't catch up, so it was better to let the woman recover on her own. Zhang Xiaobao explained, back in his time, any man who cared a little about women would be very clear about this. It was not something that belonged to the martial arts world. Good men had to specifically learn how to influence and take care of women during menstruation. But in this era, it's still very shocking to say it so naturally. Li Longji was shocked. It's not because Zhang Xiaobao dared to say such things. It's because, Xiaobao, you want to learn this too? I'm not deliberately learning it. I just want to understand it. I want to continue. But our current medical school's research in this area has always been more advanced than other areas. The main reason is because Xiao Bei and the others needed it. I invested a lot of money, and it's biased. Medical care for infants and pregnant women is free, right? So don't not bathe for a month. We have thermometers and special sterilizers. What we need to do now is to match the diet. During pregnancy, we can't raise the child too big. It's not easy to give birth. It's fine as long as it's enough. If you raise it to be fat, it might not be healthy. In this way, we can reduce the complications of pregnant women. A healthy child and a healthy mother are the most important. Also, during confinement, don't eat too much millet and eggs just for milk. There's also rice, sorghum, white flour, various vegetables, and fish. Take turns to eat. Eat less, but eat more. This will speed up the digestion of the stomach and intestines. If there's not enough milk, you can replenish your protein. The most common food is soy products. Of course, eggs are fine too. But you can't eat a pile of eggs every meal. Other than protein, there's also cholesterol. Drink some of Koen Boo soup. There's also direct sugar intake. Drink more plain water and pure fruit juice. If it's twins and you can't keep up with milk, you can add meat and fish. But you can't focus on everything, especially not eating chicken all the time. This way, there's enough iodine and calcium in the milk, as well as trace elements like iron and zinc. It's helpful for both children and adults. When Zhang Xiaobao said this, he let out a long breath. It was too tiring. Pregnancy and childbirth seemed very simple, but it involved too many things. There was no fixed method, and it could only be adjusted at any time. Wang Wan also listened. She smiled at Zhang Xiaobao and said, "You know quite a lot, Your Majesty. In fact, the birth of a baby is like fighting a war. There must be intelligence, vanguard, middle troops, and logistics. As for the education that follows, that's another story. Children are not cute toys to look at, nor are they the continuation of one's ideals. They are the most precious existence in the world. The most beautiful luminous pearl will dim in front of the dazzling new life." Li Longji listened quietly and listened very seriously. What he wanted to do most was to grab the two people behind the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families and ask them, "How many things do you know? Why did you choose Xiaobao and Cuckoo? Other than knowledge and talent, could it be that you can also teach human nature?" Of course, he also wanted to capture Xiaobao and Cuckoo and interrogate them. "How did you learn? The knowledge you learned is too diverse and vast. Aren't you tired? You know all the subjects of the imperial examinations, and you're at the top of all of them. Literature, law, politics, calculation, national policy, calligraphy, music, painting, industry, agriculture, military, economy, education, system, human nature, food, medicine, and so on. Are these things that humans can know?" Li Longji thought this, but he didn't ask. Of course, even if he asked, Zhang Xiaobao wouldn't tell him. He would say that most of these things were already included in the 12 years of compulsory education. When he and Cuckoo were children, they learned a lot of things. Basically, every day, other than eating and sleeping, their schedule was almost full. Moreover, they didn't start from the first year of the 12 years of compulsory education. Usually, they started from the time they were a fetus, followed by infant education, preschool education, and all kinds of arts. They started learning piano at the age of 4, and by the time they were 8 years old, there were countless people who had reached level 10. After the 12 years of compulsory education, those who really wanted to learn would learn more and more. Cuckoo was already a genius, and with her family's influence, you couldn't imagine how many things she knew. If it were him, he would have to be more humble. He didn't have a systematic education, but his learning ability wasn't bad either. The school he attended was different. This was what it meant that the path was intangible, but different paths led to the same destination. When he thought about how other people's children learned so much, Zhang Xiaobao said to Wang Wan, "At that time, a child like Xiao Bei would at least know 4 professional skills, right? It shouldn't be a problem to play the 3 plum blossoms with the flute. Our education still hasn't caught up, and we let them play." "Xiaobao, what are you saying? Are you belittling my children? Xiao Bei and the others haven't learned anything yet?" "Yes, if we really compare them to you and Cuckoo, they are still lacking. They can only be said to have learned something and have their own strengths, but they can't compare to the 2 of you. However, is it possible to find a second pair of Xiaobao and Cuckoo in this world? How many of Xiao Bei's 9 can there be? Perhaps Jun and Pan can catch up if they work hard. As for the other children, even if they have Chaoyang, they can't catch up. This is the injustice of the world. You can't put in all your effort to teach every child. You can only do your best for your own siblings. All right, let's not talk about this. Why didn't anyone teach me this when I was young? Otherwise, how could I tolerate you?" Li Longji was very jealous, so he spoke the truth. He understood that his ability wasn't good enough. If he killed Xiaobao and Cuckoo, he would face very serious consequences. Not to mention whether or not he could kill the 2 of them. Even if he did, how would the people behind them react? How would he face a country that could possibly create weapons that could kill an entire capital? There was also the die-hard loyalty of the Zhang family and Wang family around Great Tang, as well as the excitement of the surrounding countries. Great Tang's financial system would instantly collapse. No matter which one it wasn't something that he could bear. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan weren't angry. Any emperor wouldn't like power that they couldn't control, just like the 2 of them. They also didn't like many people, such as the aristocratic families who monopolized land, or the poor who were lazy. However, they still had to endure. This was selfishness and choice. A completely selfless person was the most terrifying. They had to be eliminated. Without selfishness, there would be no weakness. After Li Longji finished speaking, he looked at Xiaobao and Cuckoo and said helplessly, "I knew the 2 of you would be like this. It said that the 2 of you are the reincarnations of immortals. Tell me the truth, is that true?" "That depends on how you look at it. According to Buddhism, everyone is a Buddha. It's up to you to say that it's the 6 paths of reincarnation. However, according to Taoism, it's extremely mysterious and profound. Your Majesty, let's talk about the welfare of mothers and children." Zhang Xiaobao didn't answer directly. Instead, he beat around the bush. Li Longji recovered from his shock and said, "Right, welfare is something that should be done. Children are the hope. Use that piece of glass to advertise that the children of Great Tang are stronger than those of other countries from the moment they're in their mother's body. I believe that when they grow up and see the situation of other countries, they'll know how much Great Tang has sacrificed for them. If they don't love Great Tang, they'll be letting down their own conscience." Zhang Xiaobao nodded and said, "That's right. It can also let the people of other countries feel that their country isn't worth protecting." Chapter 10:28. One of the things that Li Longji loved the most was to see how the lives of the citizens of other countries were not as good as his own country. He would constantly compare them and feel extremely satisfied and proud. In the past, he had this problem. He would go on a pilgrimage to Mount Tai and make a big fuss about it. He was afraid that no one would know about it. Whenever he went to a place, the local government would spend a lot of money. Whenever he was happy, he would exempt a few years of taxes, reducing the finances of the imperial court. Now he also liked to travel, but he was not so extravagant. He didn't specially go to a certain place where he didn't need to be received. So he made a curious connection between tourism and the promotion of fertility. He said to Zhang Xiaobao, "How's the construction of the Great Tang going? I want to patrol Great Tang. Summer will be here soon, and I'm afraid that there will be a flood at the Yangtze River. I'm going to make preparations in advance. At the same time, I can promote the national policy of promoting fertility. Isn't this killing two birds with one stone?" Zhang Xiaobao would be a fool if he believed his words. If you want to travel, so be it. Who's stopping you? What's the point of finding excuses? Thus, Zhang Xiaobao didn't reply. Wang Wan couldn't help but laugh. She said to Li Longji, "Your Majesty, the construction of the Great Tang doesn't need to be grand. It's fine as long as it's comfortable. When you're not here, you can use it to play movies and become a place for ordinary people to visit. Don't take the initiative to collect entrance fees. Put a donation box inside and say that it's used for Great Tang's infrastructure. Rich people will be willing to throw in some money. Then, use that money to pay maintenance fees and give a portion to Xiaobao. Xiaobao can use it on Great Tang's infrastructure. You can also set up stalls for people to rent and sell local specialties and snacks. You can set a profit ratio. I believe that few people will dare to challenge your authority. Don't rip off the tourists. This is a place where publicity is the most important. You can't put the cart before the horse." After which, Wang Wan looked at the sand table and reminded Zhang Xiaobao, "The wind direction has changed. Change the place to release the smoke." "Okay, give the order. Extinguish the fire in the northeast and ignite the fire in the west." Zhang Xiaobao looked at the sand table. That was right. The messenger had already changed the model to test the wind direction. Li Longji and Wei Wei shook their heads. "I reckon that Zhao Hanzhang will come looking for the two of you later. Look at how you've bullied him. Do you still have the honor of a soldier? You're just like a rascal. Smoke, smoke, smoke. All you know is to smoke. Your Majesty, you can't say that. If I had other means, would I have ordered people to shout, harass, and release smoke? You will know later, whether it is the Navy, the Army, or the Air Force, when attacking the enemy, you must hide yourself. Take the artillery, for example. Now that they are firing at our army is able to hold on. If our army also has artillery battalions, would they dare to fire as they please? When his cannonballs fell on our infantry positions, our cannonballs fell on his artillery positions. What's the big deal about smoke? In the future, I will release poisonous gas. If the wind blows, a large number of people will die. Who cares if he is a rascal or not? It's fine as long as fewer people die in our army." Zhang Xiaobao said indifferently. He was the kind of person who was ruthless to himself and even more ruthless to others. He would only show his kind side to the children of his own country. This was also the point that made Wang Wan feel the most conflicted when she evaluated him. Li Longji's personality was actually quite similar to Zhang Xiaobao's. The only difference was that in the past he could bear to do anything to anyone, even if they were children of Great Tang. This had something to do with his family upbringing and environment. Now a lot had changed. The environment had changed, so there was pressure and motivation. Ever since Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan began to interact with him, he felt a special feeling. It was relaxation, affection, and tranquility. When the two of them were a little older, Xiaobei and the other 9 children became lively again. This made Li Longji realize that it was better for him to have a few people around him who didn't treat him like an emperor. Right now, Li Longji was experiencing this kind of interaction. He liked to hear Xiaobao speak casually. He understood that it wasn't that Xiaobao didn't know how to speak in a bureaucratic tone like the other ministers. Even Xiaobao knew how to do it, let alone Xiaobao. Of course, Xiaobei's bureaucratic tone was very cute. Only those with ulterior motives would be afraid of it. This was because when Xiaobei spoke in a bureaucratic tone, it was when she was about to teach someone a lesson. What she liked to do the most was to tell stories to others. Li Longji's eyes narrowed. He enjoyed chatting with Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, even if Xiao Bao was speaking bloody words. Reporting, enemy General Zhang Zhang is cursing at the front of the formation. Ask our generals to go out and meet him. The messenger's words interrupted Li Longji's leisurely moment. Zhang Xiaobao looked at the messenger and curled his lips in disdain. I don't want to meet him. What? He wants to fight me one-on-one. Does he want me to use a gun? If he uses a rifle, I'll let him hide as he pleases within 500 meters. If he uses a pistol, he won't even have the chance to fire within 50 meters. I think he'll use a knife and he'll use a gun. The messenger held back his laughter as he spoke. Do you think he can win if I use a knife? Give me 2 throwing knives. Let's see how he'll aim at me. Unless the bullets miss and hit me, he'll continue to give me smoke. How will I have the time to answer him? Zhang Xiaobao was still full of disdain. After the messenger left, Li Longji said, I believe in your ability, Xiaobao. If it's one-on-one, Zhao Hanzhong is far from your match. Just now, when Cuckoo said to ask people to donate money, I feel that I don't need that little bit of money. It's as if I'm poor. Your Majesty, I've told you before that the purpose of donating money is not for that little bit of money, but for the heart. Love is the essence of the people of Tang. If you don't promote it, who will donate money to buy things for their children when they need to carry out operations in the future? However, we have to spend the money donated. Since we don't need donations, we can still do things. Why should we be greedy for that little bit of money? If we're greedy enough, the hearts of the people will turn cold. It's just like Xiaobei's story of the boy who cried wolf. Zhang Xiaobao explained the purpose of asking people to donate money. It wasn't about how much money they could raise, but how high their hearts could soar. Yes, I've mentioned this before. Li Longji recalled. At the same time, he took back what he said about not having much money. After all, Tang's operations in the Chaoyang Empire cost a lot. They were all paid for by merchants from all over the country. According to Xiaobao, merchants had a low status, so they had to do more to gain the recognition of others. Otherwise, if they earned a lot of money but were looked down on by others, it would be too sullen to live. It wasn't even a tenth of the love and respect that a poor scholar received during his lectures. That was to have 1,000,000 strings of coins and be cold and indifferent to others. The most frightening thing wasn't coldness, but indifference. Li Longji had asked Xiao Bao how much all the schools in Great Tang spent when added together. In the end, he had obtained a vague figure. Based on the dormitory that the schools built for the students who came from afar and provided 4 to 5 meals a day, and based on the quality of the meals and the standards of the books and uniforms, they spent at least 20 million strings of coins a year. Based on the 12 months of Great Tang's fiscal revenue, this took up about 1/7 of the total. Just thinking about it was enough to scare someone to death. The treatment of the children was simply too good. The main reason was that the status of the merchants wasn't high enough. They needed money, and more importantly, they needed the recognition of the people of Great Tang. Of course, Xiao Bao and Cuckoo also played a role in this. Through incessant propaganda and clear attitudes, the merchants knew what to choose. Xiao Bao, our Great Tang's merchants really don't have it easy. They were scared by you and spent all their money. Say they, don't put the blame on me. I'm not scaring them. It's only 20 million strings of coins. If they don't spend it, I'll do it myself. I don't need to use the imperial court's revenue, nor do I need to use your money. I can support it myself. But if they really force me to spend my own money, my family's annual income won't be 60 or 70 million strings of coins. It might even rise to 100 million strings of coins. Since they aren't willing to take the money, I won't give them a chance to make a lot of money. As long as the Great Tang's imperial court doesn't interfere or suppress me politically, I control the Ministry of Works and the Agriculture Temple, as well as a large number of production, logistics, sales, and trade systems. I won't be able to deal with them. The rich are heartless, and I won't talk about fairness with them. I'll just give them a good ideological lesson. Zhang Xiaobao was still as radical as ever. What he meant was that he didn't care about what others said. He earned the money through hard work. He was smart and willing to do it, so why should he pay for it? Was it wrong to be smart and hardworking? This was because Zhang Xiaobao believed that there was no such thing as truth in this world. You were smart and hardworking because the imperial court provided you with opportunities. They didn't provide you with good seeds, industrial technology for civilian use, or convenient information tools like the telegraph system. If they didn't create stable political, economic, and military conditions for you, how could you earn the money you have now? Our great Tang has always been in a state of war and invasion. If you're smart to a certain extent, you won't be earning money, but thinking of a way to become an emperor. Fairness itself is a scale. How many weights, how strong a lever, and how long a distance do you need to use a small number of merchants to move the majority of ordinary people and maintain that balance? If things go wrong, the scale will break, and the weight will fall and smash your feet. Wang Wen also understood Zhang Xiaobao's thoughts, so she added, Xiaobao won't talk about fairness with merchants. This is because Xiaobao has always been suppressing his desires. He doesn't use many methods because he's afraid that it will affect the normal operation of Great Tang's economy and cause losses to the common people. Thus, Xiaobao has always been standing on the high ground and demanding of other merchants. If a merchant says that you don't want to use your abilities, that's your own problem. What right do you have to restrict me? Then, Xiaobao will use some methods on them. Not only will I not restrict you, but I won't restrict myself as well. This is fair, right? I won't ask you to do anything. We'll rely on our own means, and we'll be responsible for our own lives. I believe that the merchant who speaks the opposite in the end will think that it's better to restrict him. He. Li Longji nodded with a smile. That's right. What merchants are afraid of isn't how high Xiaobao's moral standing is, but the ability of this industry. Sheep don't have the right to talk about fairness with wolves, because wolves will die if they don't eat sheep. Reporting, the enemy's commander, Zhao Hanzhong, is challenging us again. He wants to meet with our commanders. A messenger came in to report. Zhang Xiaobao said unhappily, Is he done yet? Cuckoo, give me a pair of binoculars. I'll go and meet him from afar. I'll scare him to death. Yes, meet him. He's challenging me. If I don't trick him, I'll be letting down his persistence. Zhang Xiaobao, who suddenly thought of something fun, took a pair of binoculars from Wang Wan, walked out, and rushed to Zhao Hanzhong's room. I'll also go and take a look. Li Longji greeted Wang Wan and followed him out. Wang Wan sat there without moving. She couldn't go and meet Zhao Hanzhong, as that would expose her position as the main force. She looked at the door and muttered, Xiaobao is coming up with bad ideas again. Chapter 10:29. Challenge. Zhao Hanzhong stood by his sand table and ordered the messenger. General Zhao is in a good mood. It's just that it's a bit cold in the command center. Do you want someone to add a brazier? Zhang Xiaobao's voice sounded as he appeared at the door. Zhao Hanzhong turned his head. His eyes were first filled with doubt, then shock and anger. He opened his hands to block Zhang Xiaobao's line of sight. As he blocked, he said, Zhang Xiaobao, you can't do this. You're relying on the privilege His Majesty gave you to come here and spy on me. Can't you afford to lose? As he spoke, Zhao Hanzhong had already reached his hand in front of Zhang Xiaobao's eyes. He looked left and right. When he felt that Zhang Xiaobao couldn't see the sand table, he was temporarily relieved. Zhang Xiaobao, why did you come here instead of commanding your people? I don't like the cold. I'm not used to the hot room. Don't peep in the name of caring for me. General Zhao, it's better to be honest. I was discussing economic and political matters with His Majesty, and you had people call me to meet you again and again. I was busy. When I thought about how it would take too much time for each of us to set up a model of each other and have the messenger pass on our words back and forth, why don't we meet? Let's each use a telescope and shout from a distance. What do you think? Zhang Xiaobao said with a look of grievance. Zhao Hanzhong was stunned again. He suddenly jumped back and pointed at Zhang Xiaobao. It's you. Zhang Xiaobao. Yes, it's me. I'm Zhang Zhuangzi of Sanshui City, the eldest son of the Zhang family, Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao said with a smile. You're the one who kept smoking me? You're also the one who made the soldiers sing folk songs day and night? No wonder you could come up with such a sinister move. In other words, the main force of your army is here, right? Zhao Hanzhong loudly questioned Zhang Xiaobao. This was because it was a folk song, and the messenger had sung it to him many times. At first, it was all right, but later on, he felt a headache coming on. It was too torturous, and he had to change it to another song. Staring at the same song, who could stand it? The smile on Zhang Xiaobao's face became even brighter. He cupped his hands and said, Thank you, thank you, thank you for the compliment. As the saying goes, in a battle of life and death, everyone will rely on their own means. All is fair in war. In fact, I haven't done enough. I need to learn more in the future. Stay away from me. Don't get too close. Disgusting. Who wants to talk to a man like you? Someone, pass down my order and report to the Middle Army. The enemy our brigade encountered is Zhang Xiaobao's logistics team. Their main force is at Mount Huangshan. Wait, Zhang Xiaobao, you lied to me. Your main force is definitely not at Mount Huangshan, right? Just as Zhao Hanzhong was about to send the message back, he suddenly hesitated. When he asked Zhang Xiaobao, he stared into Zhang Xiaobao's eyes, as if he wanted to see if Zhang Xiaobao was lying. However, he didn't know that even if he put a lie detector on Zhang Xiaobao's eyes, it would be useless, let alone look into his eyes. Therefore, Zhang Xiaobao's eyes were still as clear and pure as when he was young. To describe it a little exaggeratedly, it was as deep as the bright night sky. With this kind of gaze, Zhang Xiaobao still smiled and said, If General Zhao is powerful and you found out, half of our main force is actually hiding at Mount Huangshan under the command of Cuckoo. In a few days, they will surround your army. The other half is already ambushed beside Hangzhou. They want to catch your middle army off guard. Zhao Hanzhong's eyes narrowed. He retracted his hands and twisted them together. His two thumbs moved back and forth in circles. It was obvious how conflicted he was. After thinking for a while, he still couldn't figure it out. He could only ask, Then let me ask you. Since you said that the main force is here, why didn't Wang Wan show up? Do you need Cuckoo to show up to fight your brigade of 4,000 people? My logistics army has more than 20,000 people here. Including my personal guards, there are a total of 25,000 people. Originally, I thought that it would be difficult for you to fight properly. Who asked you to rush all the way here? Now that you're here, you still want to call the shots? It's useless even if you put up a front. Zhang Xiaobao puffed out his chest and looked up at the ceiling as he spoke to Zhao Hanzhong. Zhao Hanzhong still didn't believe him. Although he knew that what was false was true and what was true was false, he couldn't tell which of Zhang Xiaobao's words was false and which was true. Zhang Xiaobao, it's too impolite of you to look at the sky when you speak. Let me ask you again. Which of your battalions is following behind my army? Which unit was the one that set the forest on fire? Who was the vanguard of my 1st Brigade on Fuyang Hill? Oh, you're here to ask me for information? All right, since we're colleagues, there's no harm in telling you. First, let's talk about the one that set the forest on fire. That was done by Cuckoo's Sniper Battalion. It was a high-quality team. A 2nd period inner courtyard student and 13 4th period inner courtyard students. After they finished setting the forest on fire, they went into hiding and didn't come back. At that time, they were given a death order to achieve their goal. However, they didn't want to die, so they survived. They also split into many small teams and searched for small enemy units in various places. For example, groups of 3 to 5 people, or less than 10 people. When they encountered them, they ate them. They seized a lot of these things that can see very far. You recognize them, right? Zhang Xiaobao wasn't in a hurry at all. He spoke slowly to Zhao Hanzhong and even waved the binoculars in his hand. Zhao Hanzhong's expression was ugly. He waved his hand and said, "Just say that you destroyed my intelligence team. Why are you beating around the bush? You're holding binoculars in your hand. Your family made them first. Don't you recognize them?" In other words, there was only one or a few small teams following behind my army. Where's Fuyang? You're really too much. Just joking and relaxing. That's right, there's a small team behind you. Not just a few people. The leader of the team is called Little Dong. I've already met him and told him about your members and weapons. Fuyang, you can only blame your people for being too careless. When they met the logistics team that I sent out, the result was the same as yours. They foolishly rushed forward to fight a siege and annihilate the enemy. You're a little stronger than them, just a little. You pulled your people back in time to break through, but it's just a little. Zhang Xiaobao was telling the truth, but he knew that Zhao Hanzhong didn't dare to treat it as the truth. If it was him, he wouldn't believe it either. Sure enough, Zhao Hanzhong looked at Zhang Xiaobao seriously, as if he wanted to distinguish the truth from the other party's expression. Unfortunately, he found that he couldn't see anything. His only gain was that he saw Li Longji. Li Longji was holding a corn stick in his hand. He was rubbing the kernels and eating them. The kernels were roasted. The kernels were not that tender, so the kernels could be rubbed off. The fragrance also floated into the noses of the people around him. Your Majesty, is what Zhang Xiaobao said true? Zhao Hanzhong first gave a simple bow and asked casually, "You said that the technology is advanced. That's good. Someone just sent me 2 types of roasted corn. One was harvested in advance last autumn and was preserved until now. The other was planted later and then placed in the greenhouse. It's ready to eat now. The one that was preserved last year is slightly dehydrated, but the kernels are still so plump. This year's new corn is too tender. It's fine to boil it, but it's not delicious when roasted." Zhao Hanzhong, do you want to eat one? Li Longji shook the corn stick in his hand twice and asked Zhao Hanzhong. He didn't answer the other party's question just now. Zhao Hanzhong also knew that the emperor wouldn't reveal the secret. When he smelled the fragrance, he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. When he looked at the roasted corn, he suddenly remembered something. Your Majesty, isn't corn supposed to be kept as seeds? Why did you eat it all? Zhao Hanzhong's family had land. When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan asked people to bring back seeds from a faraway place, he asked for some seeds. It wasn't easy. There were too many monks, and not enough gruel. Now his family only had a few potatoes and tomatoes. They didn't have any chili peppers and corn. When he saw the emperor eating, he thought that if he didn't eat it and kept it as seeds, would his family get a share? After planting it for a year, there would be more in the second year. Li Longji waved his hand behind him. Someone came over and brought the roasted corn. Zhao Hanzhong, eat an ear of corn. It's not bad to eat a few more. Corn seeds are indeed produced after corn ripens, but not all corn can be turned into seeds. The corn that was left last year and the corn that was eaten this year didn't grow well. If you leave it as seeds, wouldn't you be harming the people? It's like a general. The one who commands the army must be a general, but not any general can command the army. Li Longji's last words were heavy, which made Zhao Hanzhong tremble. He knew that His Majesty was saying that his command was not good, and that he was alone in the enemy's encirclement. He could not be a seed. When he took the roasted corn, he suddenly felt that the corn wasn't that delicious. He didn't even care that it was hot. Zhang Xiaobao came over to help Zhao Hanzhong take the corn. His 2 hands moved back and forth and blew on the corn. Otherwise, Zhao Hanzhong's hands would be scalded and blistered. Li Longji changed the topic. Of course, corn and people are different. If the seeds can't be used, then it's over. As for people, they can learn more. There's still a chance. When 2 armies meet, what should they do? The vanguard attacks, the middle army defends, and the logistics camp temporarily. The attack is chaotic, and the defense is counterattacking. Zhao Hanzhong immediately replied. If one army arrives and the enemy camp is waiting to defend, what should they do? Li Longji asked again. When all the scouts are sent out and looking for an advantageous place, they will both be on the defensive and stabilize their foundation. Then they will plan another direction. Zhao Hanzhang replied. What should they do when they see that the enemy's vanguard is weak? When they find the location of the main force, they will order a small group to test it out. This is to prevent them from being lured into attacking and losing their advantage. Then what did you do when you attacked Highland 113? Li Longji's voice became louder. Zhao Hanzhang's head was almost touching his chest. I thought they had few people and bad weapons, so I wanted to take them down first and finish them off in one go. Who knew that they would be so tenacious and fight to the death without retreating? And they even dug trenches and set up ambushes. Zhao Hanzhang's voice became lower and lower. He knew who his opponent was, but he couldn't help but underestimate them. This was because he had good weapons. Eat it. Let Xiao Bao blow on the corn to cool it down for you. It should taste better for you. After Li Longji finished speaking, he held his unfinished corn and found a place to sit down. He waited for Zhang Xiaobao and Zhao Hanzhang to speak. Only then did Zhao Hanzhang remember that he still wanted to eat the corn. He took the corn from Zhang Xiaobao's hands. Thank you, Jidushi Zhang. Don't mention it. The war isn't over yet. Let's continue. Zhang Xiaobao also asked for a roasted corn. He first ate the 2 rows of corn in the middle quickly with his mouth. Then, he could use his hands to rub them. He rubbed very carefully and evenly. He tried his best to rub out as much of the corn kernels as possible. His hands were covered in black dust. Zhao Hanzhang reacted. They were still fighting. He swallowed the corn kernels in his mouth and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "You should hurry up and attack. Otherwise, when the main force of my army arrives, I will attack from both inside and outside. Your 20,000 men won't be able to defend." Are you trying to scare me? Your main vanguard of 10,000 men is currently camping outside. How could they know that our army has more than 20,000 men? Perhaps they think that our main force is here, with 100,000 men. Even if they had 100 times the courage, they wouldn't dare to attack. I'm going back first. I'll immediately attack you. Just wait. After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, he took the corn kernels and left. You're leaving just like that? Aren't the 2 of you going to chat a little longer? Li Longji also got up and chased after Zhang Xiaobao. However, he did not return to Wang Wan's command center. Instead, he returned to the center of the sand table, because Zhang Xiaobao also did not return. The moment Zhang Xiaobao returned to his command center, he looked at the sand table and smiled. He was relieved. He knew that Zhang Shogui would not be coming to reinforce them. This would give Wang Wan's army some time to prepare. Moreover, he could continue to fight a defensive battle and not focus on attacking Zhao Hanzhang's army. Of course, this was not absolute. There was a probability, and the probability was just slightly higher. However, Zhao Hanzhang's thoughts were heavy. After thinking for a while, he sent a message to Zhang Xiaobao. He did not make any subjective judgments. He passed on the exact words he had said to Zhang Xiaobao and let him make his own judgment. When Zhang Shogui received the report, he was also given a fright. He hadn't expected his army to encounter Zhang Xiaobao's logistics force. If he really believed everything, then the Fuyang region was also under Zhang Xiaobao's logistics force. Then where's the main force? Where's the enemy's main force? If they weren't in the Huangshan region and only had Zhang Xiaobao's 20,000 men, our army would naturally be able to wipe them all out. But if that wasn't the case, why would Zhang Xiaobao say that? Is he baiting me into attacking so that I can be eaten by the main force? Or is he trying to scare me so that he can use this opportunity to wipe out that brigade? Zhang Shogui began to analyze the information he had received. The more he thought about it, the more chaotic his mind became. He wanted to fight a battle of opportunity, but he was worried that Zhang Xiaobao would plot against him. He wanted to defend, but he was also worried that he would delay the crucial moment of rescue. After less than an hour of consideration, half a day had passed on the battlefield on the sand table. It was time for the night to fall. Seeing a messenger come over and take out a dust time marker, Zhang Shogui's eyes lit up. He gave the order, report to the front. When night falls, break out of the encirclement and find a suitable direction to escape the enemy's encirclement. The moment Zhao Hanzhang received the order, he immediately understood what Zhang Shogui meant. It was no longer realistic for his brigade to attack the enemy's high ground, but defending it wasn't a problem. However, Zhang Shogui couldn't determine the enemy's situation, so he wanted to use his own troops to test the waters. If they succeeded, it would mean that the enemy only had 20,000 logistic soldiers. If they couldn't break out, his own troops would be crippled. However, Zhang Shogui's troops would be able to make the necessary adjustments, retreat, and defend to avoid even greater losses. Zhao Hanzhang truly didn't want his troops to break out of the encirclement, but for the sake of the great Tang army as a whole, he could only make this sacrifice. Order, cook at midnight and rest at 4. At 4 in the morning, break out of the encirclement. Zhao Hanzhang had no other choice but to give this order. Normally speaking, the path from which they came was the most dangerous, but since he knew this, and he believed that Zhang Xiaobao knew this as well, the defenses of the path from which they came should be relatively weak, while the other paths should be filled with traps. As for whether this was true or not, he would know once he tried. In any case, if they could break out of the encirclement, how many of them would survive would be up to the heavens. Zhang Xiaobao was also looking at the sand table, analyzing what choice Zhao Hanzhang would make and whether Zhang Shogui would make the decision according to his own judgment. At this stage of the battle, it was a true battle of wits and courage, each side trying to guess at the arrangements of the other side's commanders. Order: our army to prepare to face the enemy's breakout at any time. No matter which direction the enemy breaks out in, our army is not allowed to retreat. As for the other armies, if they are close to the breakout point, circle around and continue to set up defenses. If they are far away, quickly pursue from the sides. If the enemy doesn't move, continue to harass them. After passing down the order, Zhang Xiaobao left the room and went straight to Wang Wan's room. Cuckoo, I forced them to give the order to move as quickly as possible. What do you think we should do? Zhang Xiaobao said to Wang Wan. Wang Wan carefully listened to Zhang Xiaobao's recount of the situation and sighed. You just had to make the conflict erupt so quickly. Wouldn't it have been better to wait 2 more days? My men are still on the way, so we can only increase our speed. You can also stop defending Highland 737. Right now, have the men of Highland 737 leave the battlefield as quickly as possible. Then, go to the flank of Zhang Shogui's camp and assume a forceful offensive posture. Remember, it has to be the flank, not the back. Intentionally leave a path for him to escape. After Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao finished making arrangements, she ordered her men to increase their speed and surround the enemy. Zhang Xiaobao also had his own reasons. I want to delay for as long as possible, but I still don't know where the enemy's central army is. What if they rush over? If we delay for too long, I'm afraid that Zhang Shogui will react. Wang Wan nodded. She was also worried that the enemy's central army would arrive too quickly. The main problem was that the enemy's central army had hot air balloons. It was clearly impossible to destroy them like last time. The only solution was to send out a flock of eagles to attack the enemy's aerial forces. However, the eagles could not be sent out as they pleased. The enemy's hot air balloons were considered supplies. Even if they were destroyed, they could still be sent back. They had to be used at the most crucial moment. Crucial moment? A battle of life and death? Eagle flock hot air balloons. Xiaobao, what do you think is the difference between an eagle flock and a hot air balloon? Wang Wan seemed to be talking to herself, but also seemed to be asking Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao looked at Wang Wan and said, "You're talking about the difference? That's a lot. Hot air balloons can throw things down from above, and they can also be used for reconnaissance. Moreover, they're equipped with guns that can also be used for aerial attacks. If our eagle flocks rush over, they'll be shot down by their cross protection. Of course, they'll also destroy a portion of their own balloons. If we really have to talk about the greatest difference, it would be that eagles fly faster, while hot air balloons float slower. Moreover, they're greatly affected by the direction of the wind. Wang Wan finally understood. She clapped her hands and happily said, "That's right. Eagles fly fast, so they're not affected by the direction of the wind." To attack Zhang Shogui, mobilize the eagle flock. Xiao Bao, don't let all of your men rush out. Leave a brigade behind for Zhang Shogui. I'll also leave a brigade behind to play with Zhang Shogui. Where should I leave my brigade? Zhang Xiaobao was unable to keep up with Wang Wan's train of thought. Highland 737. Wang Wan smiled and pointed at the sand table. The sand table had a time of 4 hours, but in reality it was very fast, only an hour. Once the hour was up, Zhao Hanzhang's 4,000 men began to abandon their heavy belongings and break out of the encirclement. Artillery shells rained down, smashing a path out of Zhang Xiaobao's encirclement. Reporting, one of our regiments has been annihilated. The enemy's artillery fire is too fierce, the messenger reported to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao nodded, indicating that he had heard. Chase, regardless of the cost, chase. If the enemy leaves people behind to cover the rear, then face the pursuing troops and slow down the pace of the attack. The pursuing troops on both sides split up and surround the enemy's rearguard. At this moment, Zhao Hanzhang was on full alert. Having already fought a siege once, he knew how difficult it was to deal with the enemy. He concentrated his firepower, and in the end, the artillery battalion's cannons were no longer needed. Once they ran out of ammunition, the soldiers could serve as rearguard to stop the enemy. Charge! Charge! Charge for me! Zhao Hanzhang's eyes were red. As he listened to the various reports from the messenger and the speed at which his troops were advancing, his heart felt like it was on fire. Of the 4,000 men, 1,500 had been split up to form a defensive line at the rear. The troops at the front responsible for breaking out of the encirclement had killed nearly 2 enemy regiments, but they had also lost around 500 men. The results of the battle were good, but they had used up all their ammunition and a large number of grenades, and they had yet to reach Highland 225. Zhao Hanzhang was very clear that there was still about a regiment of enemy troops on Highland 225, then the Depression, and then back to Highland 213. It could be said that they had launched a surprise attack and were on the verge of death. However, in order to complete the mission of the main force, they had to fight even if they had to die. Zhao Hanzhang was feeling a lot of pressure, but Zhang Xiaobao was not relaxed either. His pursuing troops were not too many, and when they encountered the enemy's rearguard, their firepower was still very fierce. The enemy did not conserve their ammunition. Just this one time, out of the 1,500 rearguard troops, he had to bring out at least 6,000 men to surround them. However, the 2 groups of troops that were advancing quickly took up 8,000 men, and there were still 5,000 men in front. He could only mobilize about 10,000 men. Highland 737, don't hold back. Attack. Send out my personal guards. Regardless of the casualties, break through the encirclement. Tell the main force that the pursuit is difficult. The enemy's defense is tenacious, and their advancing speed is very fast. Zhang Xiaobao was also stubbornly holding on. In any case, whoever could not hold on would not be able to complete their tactical deployment. When Wang Wan heard Zhang Xiaobao's message, she thought for a moment and said, "Tell Xiaobao that there are no reinforcements. Slow down the attack and surround the enemy's rearguard troops. Harass them from all sides and exhaust their ammunition." When Zhang Xiaobao received this message, he sighed and said, "Fine. Slow down the pursuit. If you can't catch up, let go of the enemy's rearguard troops and surround the rearguard troops. Quickly insert into the troops on the left and right. Don't look back." Zhang Xiaobao could not understand why Wang Wan did not send out her main force to help. Her main force had already advanced very far, and some of them had even circled around to the back of Wang Wan's troops. He did not have the time to ask Wang Wan, and he was also afraid of disturbing Wang Wan's battle strategy. He could only choose a method that minimized his losses as much as possible while also eliminating the enemy's rearguard troops. On the other hand, Wang Wan sent someone to explain her battle strategy. Reporting. News from the Central Army. General Wang says that she wants Zhang Shougui's troops to attack Highland 1313 and take it down to join up with Zhao Hanzhang's troops. Got it. My men are definitely going to cripple the logistics team I left here. Cuckoo, when you're commanding, you're really ruthless. Zhang Xiaobao muttered. After thinking for a moment, he said, send someone to inform the defenders at Highland 225 and Highland 1313 to prepare to withstand the pincer attack from both sides. The rear guard troops behind them no longer have any artillery support. Zhao Hanzhang was the first to sense the slowing of the pursuit. The scouts reported that the frequency of gunfire had decreased. Zhao Hanzhang was well aware that the enemy could not have wiped out his rearguard troops so quickly, and the rearguard troops would not have run out of ammunition that quickly. This could only mean two things. The first was that the enemy lacked manpower, and the second was that they had run to the front to wait for him. When he thought about the 3 places he needed to break through, he began to worry once more. Report. Our troops have broken through the encirclement and suffered heavy losses. The enemy's pursuit has slowed. There are 3 enemy positions ahead. Please make a decision. Zhang Shougui was also confused when he received the report. He looked at the sand table and estimated the distance between Zhao Hanzhang's troops and himself. After thinking for a while, he clenched his fists and released them, then clenched them again and again. Report back. Ordered Zhao Hanzhang's troops to continue breaking through the encirclement. By daybreak, they must pass through Highland 225. My troops will be responsible for taking down Highland 1313 and attacking the last remaining rearguard from the low-lying area. Zhang Shougui was afraid of falling for a trap, so he did not want to save them at the start. However, when he looked at the sand table, he realized that at such a close distance, if he were to just watch as Zhao Hanzhang's troops fell beside Highland 1313 and the enemy still did not have any plans, his mistake would be too great. At the same time, the morale of his troops would be judged to be extremely low. In that case, he could only cooperate and save as many as he could. According to the time on the sand table, when daybreak arrived, Zhao Hanzhang's troops finally arrived at Highland 225. A messenger came in to report that there were enemy tents on the road beside the highland, and in front of them were trenches and roadblocks. Charge. Zhao Hanzhang had no other choice. Report. Our troops have fallen into a deep pit. Report. Our troops have been attacked by the enemy's arrows. Report. Our troops have engaged the enemy in close combat. Report. As the reports came in one after another, Zhao Hanzhang squatted beside the sand table, tears flowing down his cheeks. Zhang Xiaobao also stood in front of the sand table, lightly clapping his hands. His face was solemn as he slowly muttered, "Beautiful, beautifully fought." A force of 1,500 rearguards was surrounded, but they still managed to exhaust 3,000 of my men. They actually knew how to counterattack, and they were even able to link up several lines of defense. Record down the rearguard commander for me. Once this battle is over, I'll personally go and see him. My personal guard was bitten off by his final counterattack. Beautiful, truly beautiful. Tell Cuckoo that I've discovered a talent. When Wang Wan heard Zhang Xiaobao's report, she chuckled and said, "Tell Xiaobao that we'll talk about it later. Right now, his troops are to go to Highland 737 and rest there. The 8,000 troops that are going to pass between the two sides are to assemble and prepare to attack the flanks of Zhang Shougui's camp at any time." Zhang Shougui did not remain idle. Since he had decided to save them, he naturally had to think of a way to open up a path. Under his orders, the cannons plowed through Highland 113 again and again. It felt like all the defensive structures on the highland had been destroyed, but when the troops charged, they were still fiercely counterattacked. The rings of fire made of firewood that were not destroyed by the explosions were set alight by the enemy. From the top of the hill was still under the enemy's control even when the sky was already bright. A messenger inserted a tattered flag into the sand table at Highland 113, replacing the original flag. Reporting. According to the feedback from our attackers, the enemy doesn't have much resistance left. Zhang Shogui bit his lip. You've been saying this since an hour ago. Zhao Hanzhong, you really screwed me over. Is this the army you destroyed when you broke through? There's at least a regiment defending it. Men, continue the bombardment. Asterisk, 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 asterisk in another room. Battalion Commander Wang, you've fallen in battle, the messenger said. One of the three commanders stood up and said to the other two, Sun Quan, Fanju, I'm leaving. I'll be waiting for you at the center of the sand table. I hope that you'll arrive a little later. Sun Quan and Fanju nodded. After Wang Nen left, the two exchanged bitter smiles and shook their heads at the same time. How many can still fight? Sun Quan asked. Less than 100. This is the last defense. Once the enemy shells fall, you and I will probably have to leave. Fanju appeared very calm. He was exhausted today and had to constantly communicate with the messenger. Although there was no sound of cannon fire, the silent battlefield still exhausted him. As expected, it didn't take long for the messenger to report that another wave of enemy shells had fallen. Sun Quan had been struck by shrapnel and had died. Only Fanju was left. He stood up and said, I want to see Zhang Shogui and see what kind of expression he has. Haha. Zhang Shogui was also thinking the same thing. He wanted to see just who was so tenacious. When the messenger placed the enemy flag on the sand table, he said, The charge is the last attack. If they're dead, I want to see them. If they're alive, I want to see their corpses. I want to see them. Less than a quarter of an hour later, a messenger came in and picked up a tattered flag. He inserted it into the sand table and reported, Our charge has been defeated. Highland 113 is still in the hands of the enemy. Motherfucker, playing with me? Where did they come from? Zhang Shogui looked at the messenger in disbelief. The messenger shook his head. In Fanju's room, there were two people who were happily chatting. Haha, how was it? Didn't I say there was no one on Highland 113? Do you admit defeat? Commander Lu Dong, what do you think? I admit defeat. I really admit defeat. I'll treat you to 3 meals. Savant's restaurant, but my Commander Su, we only left 1 battalion in the Depression. There's also your personal guard. If the 2 independent battalions on Highland 225 can't hold, I want to see if those few people can delay them. Lu Dong admitted defeat. He had lost the bet. Fanju didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she looked at Lu Dong and Su Gu. She asked, You've left your own position. Aren't you afraid that your position will be taken care of? Su Gu didn't care at all. I've already disobeyed an order once, so one more won't make a difference. My position is a depression. I originally wanted to stop them, but after thinking about it, I'll help you defend the high ground. Although the hill is small, it still has a slope, right? Lu Dong also nodded. That's right. I've already discussed it with Su Gu. Even if we can't hold Highland 113 in the end, we'll make Zhang Shogui suffer. You see that? This time, we'll definitely make him suffer. Look at his last attack. It was so smooth. The referee team even judged that they were charging forward. What was the result? Didn't they still get beaten down by us? Continue firing. And that Zhao Hanzhong he wants to run? He's facing 2 independent battalions. I estimate that the fortifications and traps will reach all the way to his home. Now that his cannons are gone, I want to see how many people he can fill in. Pay attention to concealment. Don't let the referee team judge that one of the cannonballs will land on our heads. I don't want to die in such a cowardly manner. Su Gu appeared very happy, but in reality, his heart was beating like a drum. He had already disobeyed an order twice, and he still didn't know what the result would be. Chapter 1030. The ones who were the most indifferent were the 3 people on Highland 1, 1, and 3. Fanju, Su Gu, and Lu Dong sat in the room, looking at the same sand table. Each of them had an ear of roasted corn in their hands. They rubbed it back and forth to feel the warmth from the corn, but no one ate it. Su Gu said calmly, "Do you think I'm playing the role of when a general is outside? He can't obey the orders of the emperor. I've decided to throw myself and the troops on Highland 1-1-3. Otherwise, I'll lead the troops to their deaths. If they all die, will they not hold me responsible?" "I agree," Fan Ju said with a smile. I won't express my opinion. I don't plan to go back alive. If I'm on a real battlefield, I'll be a hero, right? I believe that the Zhang family and the Wang family will let me enter the inner courtyard and take good care of my family," Lu Dong said with a trace of sadness. These days, he had been following the logistics team. Sometimes he returned to reality, and sometimes he threw himself into the sand table. He didn't sleep long each time. The ratio was 4-1. Occasionally, he could sleep for 2 hours, which was considered a blessing. Often, when he received orders, he rubbed his eyes, sat up, and drank 2 mouthfuls of water to make his stomach feel better. Then he began to do things according to the orders. For example, transporting things, repairing the river, and filling the tunnel, all of which were judged and calculated according to the possible situations. In a trance, it seemed that there was a regiment of logistics troops for him to lead, not data. The voice of the messenger was no different from that of his brothers on the battlefield, including the orderlies who took care of his daily life, fetching water for him to wash up and bringing food to him. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't hear the sound of the troops and didn't go outside to see the real environment, it was almost no different from a real battlefield. So even if he now realized that it was data in front of him, he still felt sad about the reduced number. The referees were really wicked. Yesterday, they said that their orderlies were killed by the explosion, and now they replaced them with a new one. Report, the enemy has about 2 regiments of people. After the artillery fire, they launched a charge at our highland. Just when the 3 people were quietly enjoying this moment, the messenger came in. Beat them. Beat them as hard as you can. Those who can still breathe, go up and bite them to death. Motherf ****. Fan Ju stood up and gave the order to the orderly. Su Gu glanced at Lu Dong and said, "You should be ready to provide support at any time. I will lead people to continue to dig down. This wave has been repelled, but the enemy's artillery will cover us again." It was nighttime again. The time in reality was nighttime, and it was also nighttime on the sand table. According to the calculations, the battle on the sand table had already lasted 6 days and 6 nights. The commanders involved in the battle had not slept. The number of people in Zhao Hanzhong's hands was reduced to 600 by the people chasing after them. To be more precise, there were only 200 people who could continue to fight. The remaining 400 or so people were all wounded. Currently, the leaders and commanders of the wounded were staying in Zhao Hanzhong's house. They requested to stay and buy more time for their brothers who could still fight. Zhao Hanzhong looked at the few people who had been temporarily transferred over to be the team leaders of his team. He wanted to laugh. He laughed at the judgment given by the referees. He also laughed at the serious looks on their faces. He even laughed at himself for not being able to make up his mind to give up on this game. "General, the enemy is about to catch up," a team leader said seriously. "Okay, you guys stay here. I'll take people to meet up with the main force." Zhao Hanzhong waved his hand and said. After waiting for the few people to leave, Zhao Hanzhong said to the messenger, "Report. Forget it, the machine is broken." "Yes, it's broken. But I don't understand. It's only a few hours. Why can't they rush over? Why do they expect me to rush over? I saw it when I came. In the Depression, the enemy has at least a regiment of troops. They're waiting for me." Zhao Hanzhong scolded the reinforcements from his own army. Those 1,000 well-equipped commandos were still not here, no matter how long they waited. He was bewildered. What exactly did those 1,000 people encounter? The commander of the 1,000 people was also puzzled. It was very easy for them to pass through the side of Highland 113 without encountering any attacks. However, as they ran, the messenger said that they had encountered a monster ahead. Then the messenger sent over a model. It was a model of a person wearing a special set of clothes. The messenger said that each piece of bamboo was about an inch thick. This was because they had killed a few of the enemy's people and snatched this. There were a total of 3 layers. In the middle of each layer was cotton and sand. The back of the clothes was empty and tied with a rope. The front was full of bamboo pieces. When weighing it, it weighed about 60 kilograms. It was this thing. When the soldiers in front fired a row of handguns, a few people fell. It was only when the grenades were thrown that the other party fell backward. After the commander saw this, he was very puzzled. Then let's fight. Once the fight started, it would be troublesome. Unless the bullets hit the enemy's head, if they hit the body, they would not die. There were very few injuries. Once the grenades were thrown, the enemy would fall down. The casualties were still small. Then they could not let the enemy rush to the front and fight hand to hand. They could only order the troops to move backward slowly. The path that they had just run to was slowly retreated. The commander thought for a while and finally understood the reason. In order to rescue in time, his troops had brought more throwing weapons. They did not bring long guns at all. Precious things like submachine guns were left with the main force. There were only a few of them. Most of them were dual pistols. When the bullets hit that thing, not to mention pistols, even rifles would have to hit an inch to penetrate it. The thick bamboo pieces, sand, and cotton added together actually reduced the power of the bullets to the lowest. When throwing grenades, unless they were thrown out densely or just happened to explode near the enemy's body, the moment the enemy lay down, the shrapnel of the grenade would fly away. This is too shameless. If I didn't see this thing and think about it carefully, I wouldn't know that this thing can be used to block bullets. How can the natives be so smart? The commander scolded, but there was nothing he could do. Other than this road, there was a depression on the side. When they came here, they had not even touched the depression, but some of the troops had already stepped into the trap. It was not easy to get here. The road in front was finally clear. The enemy probably did not have time to set up the trap. If they continued to walk to the depression and avoid the enemy, they would not need the enemy to attack. If they did not die in the depression, they would not be able to get out for a few days. I remember that there is such a method to block bullets. That's right. They are the ones who develop the guns, so they naturally know how to guard against it and minimize the casualties. The commander had not rested for a day and a half, almost 2 days. The troops had also retreated to the side of Highland 113. This was all thanks to the fact that they had enough grenades. If the enemy was too fast, they could organize a dense throwing of grenades. The troops at the front would be able to destroy a batch of them. The ones at the back would also run backwards to avoid the throwing distance. This is a tug of war with me, General Zhao. It is not that our troops are incompetent, but the enemy is too cunning. The commander muttered helplessly. The one who was also depressed was not only the commander of the 1,000 men, but also the commander of the logistics team, who was in charge of sniping. The commander's surname was Kai, and his name was Kai Kai. At that time, he was named Kai Kai because it was easy to raise, so he had been called Kai Kai all his life. He was originally following the logistics team of the 1st Division and the 3rd Brigade from the left side, taking a detour and advancing towards the enemy's main force. Other than the 3rd Brigade, there was also the 1st Division's 4th Brigade, and they were all equipped with the same bamboo armor. When they reached the place, they would follow the orders of the brigade commander and attack the enemy's main force crazily from the side to create enough time for their main force to surround them. As the commander of the 3rd Brigade and 3rd Regiment of the 1st Division, Kai Kai felt that he was very close to them, so he was very serious. In the end, the messenger went into the room and covered the sand table in front of him, telling him that the sand table was lost because they were marching too fast. There was only one map, and that he had fallen behind. I am a regiment, and I am following the regiment in front of me. How can I fall behind? And this sand table. Fine, he did not have the time to bring a sand table with him when he was marching. But did the others bring it when they were in a small team? Why didn't they tell him in advance? When he saw the messenger shake his head helplessly, Kai gave up on arguing and said to the messenger, "Fine, I will follow the map now. Is that okay?" "Okay, but you are not familiar with the terrain here, so you can't refer to the map. Also, it is night now. Do you want to order the troops to light torches?" The messenger nodded and answered, then asked, "Why would I light torches?" "Torches? Right now, even if there is a radio station, I have to maintain electronic silence. Our army is quickly moving in, and you want me to expose our position and battle intent? If I really light the torches, my evaluation team will immediately draw a cross behind my name, and I will never be able to enter the inner courtyard in this life. I have studied for 5 years. Do you think it is easy? Tell me the road that our army is on now. It really torments me. Be more serious. Don't give me false reports. You all only know how to bully me. You know that I have the worst grasp of the terrain. If I was good, I would have entered the inner courtyard long ago." Just like that, Kai led his regiment and walked step by step. In the end, on the sand table, in the early hours of the next day, he discovered that the enemy's army had appeared about 3 miles away. He did not know who they were, but when he discovered them, they also discovered him. What should he do? Fight. Just like that, under countless coincidences and judgments, Kai's regiment of 1,500 people started a contact battle with the enemy's 1,000 people. He did not remember the terrain well, but there was no problem with commanding. He was smart enough. And as soon as they came into contact, he realized that the enemy's goal was not to specifically target him, but to quickly pass through. Then, according to the battle policy of whatever the enemy wants to do, we will not let them do it, Kai gritted his teeth and made up his mind. He did not chase after the main force and began to exhaust the enemy. His goal was very clear. He did not care how many people he could eliminate, as long as he could stall the enemy would not be able to achieve the tactical goal. Of course, his regiment would not be able to complete the pre-battle arrangements. Report: the enemy has organized a wave of forward-throwing echelons and launched a fierce attack on our army. The messenger's voice rang in Kai's ears, who was troubled by the unfamiliar terrain. Retreat, retreat, leave a team of people at the front, exhaust the enemy's weapons, and stop the enemy's advance. Do I need to tell you this? What did little Gongzi Xiaobao say? Kai recognized this messenger. He had just entered the outer courtyard for a year, and he had studied surveying, specifically providing data for long-range weapons. This kid was very smart, and most people would not be able to learn this. The messenger replied very naturally, "If the enemy advances, we retreat. If the enemy retreats, we advance. If the enemy stays, we disturb. If the enemy is tired, we attack." After saying that, he said to Kai in dissatisfaction, "If you ask me this again, you'll be breaking the rules. Go and pass down the order, retreat," Kai shouted. The messenger went out, and he looked at the map that did not even indicate the location of his regiment. He said angrily, "The referees also know how to bully people. The enemy's attacking force of 1,000 people is very strong. They are equipped with dual handguns and so many throwing weapons. What are they trying to do? This is because they have encountered my regiment. If they had encountered an ordinary regiment of my logistics or main force, then that regiment, no, even a brigade, would have been broken through in an instant. Handguns against close-range combat. Won't people fall like wheat being cut down?" Little Gongzi said that in this world, there is no such thing as diarrhea or dryness for no reason. There has to be some reason. This kind of equipment is not like fighting a siege, where they fight from top to bottom. And they also use bows and spears as long-range weapons. It is also not like defending, where they should use spears and shoot from a distance. When the enemy gets close, there are too many variables. Then there is only one possibility. They want to pass quickly and launch surprise attack. If not, then it will become a siege. There is only one goal left, and that is to rescue. Kai Kai finally figured out something, because in this world, there was no such thing as salty and bland for no reason. Reporting. The enemy is continuing to advance. They used handguns to shoot down the team I was blocking. They were very close, and they specifically aimed for the head, even if they were injured. The messenger came back and reported. Kai Kai had basically figured everything out by now. She smiled and said, I know where I am. Where are you? The messenger asked curiously. I am between Highland 1313 and Highland 225. There should be a depression next to me. Send someone to find our garrison in the depression and have them contact me. I want to work with them to stop the enemy here. Zhao Hanzhong, you actually didn't rush out, haha. The messenger was shocked. Although his guess was not completely correct, it was not far off, because there was no one guarding the depression. They had all run to Highland 1313 to withstand the waves of enemy attacks. He then asked, aren't you not familiar with the terrain? But I am familiar with the rest. If I was really that stupid, I wouldn't even have the qualifications to study in the outer courtyard. Not to mention that I have studied for 5 years and never been eliminated. Pass down the order to defend. Even if my regiment is annihilated, I won't let them pass so easily. The longer we delay them, the more chances we have to kill Zhang. Do you know how big of a blow it is to the enemy if we can eliminate an entire unit of the enemy and even kill their commander? Kai Kai rolled up her sleeves and said, today, I will let the enemy see what I am relying on to stay in the outer courtyard and study for 5 years. That is the art of commanding in battle. Little guys, you want to play a tidal wave attack with me? Even if I make a path for you, do you dare to pass? The messenger nodded and walked out to pass the order to the referees. As he walked, he wiped his sweat and said, as expected, there are hidden dragons and crouching tigers. I have to be more serious and not be arrogant. To think that a person with no sense of direction can actually fight to such an effect. I am impressed. Chapter 10:31. Zhang Shogui felt a buzz in his head. He raised his hands and pressed them against his temples. He felt that the more he feared something, the more likely it was to happen. Carefully investigate the enemy's forces. Zhang Shogui had a strange feeling. His opponent was not some logistical unit, but the enemy's main force. What he felt was a very familiar fighting style. It was the style of strategizing and never giving in to others. I'm sure that it's definitely not Zhang Xiaobao. He can't possibly use this style. Zhang Xiaobao's style is soft yet tough. First, it's the spring breeze, and then you can feel the biting cold wind. Right now, it's like the waves crashing against the shore, stacking endlessly. I was wondering why it felt so familiar. I felt it when I was in class. This is the style of Wang Wan's Whirlwind Thousand Snow. This is what she meant when she said that the dense clouds piled up, the wind couldn't blow back, and the rain fell like rain. Zhang Shogui instantly recalled a certain lesson, where a certain person had talked about the psychological pressure of attacking and seizing the advantage. That person was Wang Wan. She had used the advantage in numbers to proactively penetrate the enemy, and then formed layers of encirclement to disrupt the enemy's advance. Someone, go and investigate the enemy's attack. Zhang Shogui was truly afraid now. When he knew that Zhang Xiaobao was organizing a logistical attack, he had still underestimated the enemy. He acknowledged Zhang Xiaobao's economic leadership, but he was not convinced by Zhang Xiaobao's ability to command, even though Zhang Xiaobao's individual fighting prowess was extraordinary. Report. The enemy has revealed their flags and numbers. Logistical Division 1, 3rd Brigade, and 4th Brigade. Our army is unable to break through, so they are using their battalions to attack. Our guns are unable to penetrate the enemy's human wall. They are throwing grenades at close range. The first wave of enemy troops is lying down, and the second wave is following. This is repeated endlessly. Our army's first line of defense has fallen. The messenger's words were extremely urgent. Reporting. Our army's right flank is in an emergency. The enemy is using their bodies to fill the trench. After 3 layers, the trench has been leveled. The enemy has stepped on our friends. Another messenger also came over to report. Zhang Shogui was dumbfounded by these 2 pieces of news. He knew of the trench. Wooden spears had been thrust into the ground, 10 feet deep and 2 feet long. How could they so easily pass through with 3 layers of corpses? You could either carry sand to fill up the path, or use dozens of corpses to pave the way. But from the messenger's urgent report, it was obvious that they were not coming here one by one, but as a whole. Deploy the cannons and attack them. Our army is preparing to retreat. Pack up. Quick, tell the generals that we are facing Wang Wan's main forces. Zhang Xiaobao's logistics army is at the front line. They are using their lives to buy time. Retreat quickly. Zhang Shogui finally understood what was going on. It was no wonder the enemy's attacks were so confusing. It was a 2-man army using 2 different styles of fighting. Yes, Zhang Xiaobao liked to be soft first and then fierce later. Wang Wan was definitely using the stacking tactic. She was the main force, and she had the advantage in numbers. Even so, she was unwilling to immediately sacrifice herself, and had let Zhang Xiaobao take the lead in the attack. Now, Zhang Xiaobao was no longer soft. He was soft because he was waiting for his vanguard, Zhao Hanzhang, to arrive. How could the husband and wife not cooperate? This was not the time to investigate how the enemy had gotten here or why they could not retreat, but how they could escape. Reporting, our army's artillery is currently focused on Plateau 113. The enemy's flag is still fluttering under the artillery fire, the messenger reported. I know you're a member of the Zhang family. You don't have to praise them like this, right? Zhang Shogui said in a fit of pique. As soon as he said this, he regretted it. If these words reached the ears of others, how would they look at him? Could it be that they couldn't even tolerate a messenger? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were fighting a war while also handling domestic affairs. Had they ever complained? Without waiting for him to apologize, the messenger changed his tone. Reporting, our army's artillery is currently fiercely attacking Plateau 113. The enemy is already unable to raise their heads. The plateau is about to fall, but the tattered flag is still there. Judging from this, the plateau is still in the hands of the enemy. I was wrong. Don't say any more. It's not even as good as the previous report. At the very least, the previous report said that the enemy was tenacious. Now aren't you saying that our army is incompetent? Zhang Shogui was even afraid of the messenger. He concluded that this was all because of his anger. Order the artillery to change directions and face our army. Wait a moment. Order the artillery to continue attacking Plateau 113 to create a false impression for the enemy. Our offensive personnel are to circle around and retreat. Attack the enemy's retreat path to the left. Understood. The messenger did not show any other expression. After receiving the order, he hurriedly ran out. At this moment, the situation in every aspect of the battle could be seen. In truth, there was no longer any plateau on Plateau 113. The hill was not large, and after being continuously bombarded, the entire hill had been shaved off by 2 meters. To be more precise, it had now become Plateau 113. Fan Zhu and the others were still holding on. A total of 3 regiments had come in, including Su Gu's personal guards. They had about a battalion strength, but only 2 battalions were left. However, the fortifications continued to dig down without stopping. This was the most helpless and most shameless method that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had come up with. Not to mention Wang Wan, who had been trained in military studies. Even Zhang Xiaobao knew how tenacious the People's Liberation Army was. Let alone a small hill that had been blown off by 2 meters. Even an entire mountain had been blown off by 3 meters. When the enemy attacked, did they see if anyone had formed a defensive position? When there was a limit to manpower, there was also a limit to ammunition. According to Zhang Xiaobao's words, Do you think that I'm a small country that will retreat after a few people die? I'll let you pick any high ground, throw down 10,000 earth penetrators, and then organize infantry to attack. See if you can easily charge up? Wang Wan admired Zhang Xiaobao's attitude the most. Thus, when she trained the people in her family, she taught them to compete in physical strength, will, courage, and life. Fan Zhu and the others thoroughly carried out this teaching. Everything began with suffering. The cannons were still roaring, but Fan Zhu, Lu Dong, and Su Gu felt that the situation was different. Su Gu spoke first. I say, aren't the cannons being too fierce? Zhang Shogui doesn't want to play anymore? The ammunition isn't infinite. If it were you or me, would we do this? Was he trying to make a feint so that he could turn his horse and retreat? Ha ha. Su Gu's words were a joke to adjust the atmosphere, but Fan Zhu and Lu Dong were stunned. Then, the two of them said at the same time, it's possible. Possible? What do you mean? Su Gu already had an idea in his mind, so he asked for confirmation. Is there even a need to think? Something must have happened to Zhang Shogui. Our troops have already moved. If it's not Xiaobao, then it's Cuckoo. Otherwise, is Zhang Shogui an idiot? Would he just fire the cannons and not organize a large-scale attack? Fan Zhu asked. Then should we launch a counterattack? That won't do. If we charge down, won't we fall under their artillery? And they still have people pretending to attack. They'll definitely try to intercept us, Su Gu said with a shake of his head. Lu Dong patted Su Gu and said, are you an idiot? 1,000 people went past Highland 113. What's going on? It's been almost 5 days, right? According to the time on the sand table, they should have met up with Zhao Hanzhong and then surrounded us, coordinating with Zhang Shogui's attack from the other side. Why hasn't there been any movement? I know. They've run into trouble. Fuck, then what are we waiting for? Let's retreat and reinforce them. Give Highland 113 to Zhang Shogui. Let's see if he dares to take it. Su Gu finally reacted. The enemy had 1,000 people. Whether or not they had met up with Zhao Hanzhong's troops, they had inevitably run into trouble. Perhaps their own troops were bitterly holding on, while their own side could still scrape together 2 battalions. If they didn't fight now, then when? Thus, the 3 of them reached an agreement. With a clap of their hands, they took the remaining people and fled as fast as they could. Fuck Highland 113. They didn't even want the flag. The 3 of them took their 800-some men down the mountain and then turned around to meet up with their own troops. 3 regiments, including Su Gu's personal guards, had been reduced to 800 people. But even so, the 3 of them did not give up. They continued to actively train according to their own analysis and habits from their previous training. In the center of the sand table, Li Longji was also not resting well. The battle had truly been too intense. All sorts of things could happen at any time, and he couldn't bear to miss out on any of the exciting moments. The others naturally had to accompany him, but when they were alone, they were able to take a nap and were in much better condition than him. Seeing Fan Zhu's group of 3 leading their troops back, Li Longji sighed and said, this is the outer courtyard of the Zhang clan and Wang clan. Look at the coordination between them. They don't even need to use telegrams to communicate. Just by relying on their usual tacit understanding, they can produce such results. And look at their willpower. They're never afraid of being alone and without help. Look at Kai Kai. Even after breaking apart an entire regiment, she still managed to organize a counterattack. Who wouldn't be afraid of such a force? After the commander gives out his mission, how many people can still judge the situation in an unexpected situation and coordinate with the main force to use the proper tactics? Zhao Hanzhong and Zhang Shogui didn't lose unjustly. Empress Wang was born into a family of generals, and she had been groomed like this since she was young. However, she knew that she had to admit that she had never seen such subordinates before, and they were only in the outer courtyard. She had seen it on the sand table of the inner courtyard. Wang Yi's group, any random small group, was able to deal significant damage to the enemy. When they fought, they gave off a sense of complete unity. Don't just talk about luck and coincidence. If that was really the case, Cuckoo's group was simply too lucky. But every opportunity was grasped by people. Everyone had a chance. So why did they grasp it so well? How many times was it still a coincidence? The more she thought about it, the more excited Empress Wang became. Your Majesty, after the martial examination, let's recruit the people from the Zhang clan and Wang clan who can't enter the inner courtyard. We also want to, but we reckon that they would rather stay in the outer courtyard than enter the court. Let's not talk about others, just Fanju, Sugu, Ludong, Wangnan, and Sun Quan. Would they agree? Just how far did they push Zhao Hanzhang and Zhang Shogui? In their eyes, Zhao Hanzhang and Zhang Shogui are defeated generals, and they don't want to be in the same team. With just a glance, they can tell that you, the generals of a court, and the main forces of the Zhang clan and Wang clan, are only at this level. Why would they leave the outer courtyard? Li Longji said with jealousy. On the battlefield, the 2 regiments of the 1st Logistics Division's 3rd Brigade and the 3 regiments of the 4th Brigade were still madly attacking Zhang Shogui's flanks without regard for casualties. The bulletproof vests made of bamboo were a little heavy, but the effects were pretty good. If someone in the front was killed, the people at the back would carry the corpse and continue pushing it forward. The enemy would drop to the ground after throwing a grenade, so the losses weren't too great. The people filling the trenches didn't use their own bodies to block the spears. Instead, they put on the bulletproof vests and found a good spot. Then, they carried the wooden poles up and filled the trenches with 3 layers of people. Those who filled the trenches were unlucky enough to be declared dead by the referees. Once the last wave of people had passed, they would have to pull out those who had filled the trenches so that they could still fight. When Zhang Shogui gave the order to retreat, the entire camp immediately fell into chaos. Fighting at night greatly affected one's field of vision, and with the order to retreat, the 2 flanks were pinned down. Of the 8,000-some soldiers, at least 3,000 were used to defend the 2 flanks. Originally, Zhang Xiaobao had 10,000 soldiers. After sending out 1,000 reinforcements and attacking heights 113 and 113, he left behind another 1,000 soldiers. Against Zhang Xiaobao's 5 logistics regiments, nearly 8,000 soldiers, the 3,000 soldiers on the 2 flanks were having a very hard time. Moreover, under the influence of the soldiers who had retreated from heights 113, the 4,000-some soldiers in the center began to move back in batches. The referees immediately judged that their morale had plummeted. The attacking logistics troops didn't light their torches for fear of being used as practice. But when Zhang Shogui's troops retreated, they lit their torches. When their torches were lit, a messenger immediately placed a model of a torch on the sand table in front of the generals. "What's this?" Zhang Shogui asked as he looked at the model, reporting, "These are the torches in the direction of our retreat and in the distance of our right flank." Based on the number of torches, we estimate that 20,000 enemy soldiers have suddenly appeared. The messenger pointed at the model and replied, "How many?" Zhang Shogui bellowed. In an instant, his heart chilled as he numbly nodded. "I know. This is Wang Wan's main force. Pass on my order. Withdraw the order to retreat. Gather all the troops and advance toward heights 113, and then take heights 225. Quickly. General, why aren't we retreating? If we continue to charge forward, our army will be surrounded and eaten," a deputy general asked. Zhang Shogui shook his head and sighed. "I also want to run, but Wang Wan won't let me. She's even more familiar than I am with constantly wiping out the enemy while running, so she won't give me a chance. If we run, our morale will plummet, our heavy weapons will be thrown away, and our provisions will also be gone. We will scatter and then be surrounded by her men. Rather than that, I might as well concentrate my forces and fight for a chance of survival." With Zhang Shogui's order, the retreating soldiers turned around, abandoning the 3,000 soldiers on the left and right wings. They arrived at the base of heights 113 and gathered a portion of the soldiers there. With less than 5,000 soldiers, they captured heights 113. reporting. We haven't encountered any enemy defending Heights 113, the messenger reported. I already know. I also know that they turned around to work with their own forces to wipe out the 1,000 reinforcements that Zhao Hanzhong and I sent over. Other than the fact that I didn't scheme against Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao. Do you know where we lost? Zhang Shogui first nodded to the messenger. Then he asked the generals in the room. One of the generals whispered, "Is it because our army is advancing too quickly? Shouldn't we have come to Mount Huangshan? That was my mistake. Is there anything else?" Zhang Shogui asked with a heavier tone. Another general thought for a moment, then said, "Could it be that by the time we sent our commanders to the regiments, there was already no one available?" Someone finally noticed. The several hundred commanders from the Zhang family and the Wang family's inner and outer courtyards formed the most luxurious command formation. Every regiment, every battalion, and even every squad had their own commander, let alone the brigade level. Moreover, because there were so many people, those who normally commanded regiments could only be sent to command battalions. But what about us? How many generals do we have that have properly studied? Our regiments were larger than the brigades, and each regiment was divided into 2 brigades. The number of people in 2 brigades is still less than the number of people in 1 battalion. We have only temporarily transferred the brigade commanders and regimental generals who haven't studied for long. The brigade commanders are directly in charge of the current regiments, while the regimental generals are in charge of brigades. They didn't have enough people, so they pushed them down. We didn't have enough people, so we raised them at the last moment. The brigade commanders, who normally commanded 2,000 people, were sent to command 500 battalions, while we normally commanded 200 generals were sent to command 1,500 regiments. Our battalion is currently the commander of a squad, and the captain is just someone who has performed well in the army. If not for the advantage in weapons, if the 2 sides met, our troops would have been instantly crushed. At this moment, Zhang Shogui was keenly aware of the weakness of not having enough people. In war, not only did the generals need to make decisions, they also needed the commanders under them to take charge of the situation. The generals thought about Zhang Shogui's words and nodded. This was true. The strength of the generals was only a part of the equation. The rest depended on how the commanders at each level performed. Zhang Shogui clenched his teeth and said, "Don't think about it anymore. Attack. Even if I die, I'll pull a few down with me." Chapter 1032. Zhang Shogui continued to lead his soldiers forward, an indescribable feeling in his heart. There was regret, annoyance, unwillingness, and helplessness. He finally understood why Wang Wan had emphasized that the soldiers should learn. At present, the soldiers of the Great Tang were basically literate, but when it came to calculations, they could only do simple addition and subtraction. When it came to spending money, they could understand how to spend it. But this clearly did not meet Wang Wan's requirements. At the very least, Zhang Shogui was not satisfied that his soldiers only had this little bit of education. From this battle, he could see that the more soldiers that could fight on their own, the greater the number of units at the bottom, the higher the fighting power of the army. Zhang Shogui, who had not encountered any resistance for the time being, looked at the model and thought to himself, "Just what level do I have to reach to meet Wang Wan's requirements?" Li Longji was also asking Zhang Xiaobao. He was in Zhang Xiaobao's room. Zhang Xiaobao had withdrawn back to Highland 737, so he didn't have many soldiers left. In total, he had just over 4,000 soldiers, including his personal guards. But he felt that it was worth it. If he added in the 2 brigades that had attacked, how many soldiers would he have left? 8,000 was already enough. Using around 17,000 soldiers, he had managed to destroy more than 10,000 of the enemy soldiers. The enemy was the vanguard, so they had a large supply of provisions and ammunition. Moreover, the price his side had to pay was the logistics, not the main force. It wasn't that the logistics weren't formidable, but that the military selection was based on the number of soldiers on each side's main force and the position they occupied. Thus, Zhang Xiaobao was very happy, and so was Li Longji. Wang Wan's good performance showed that he had a good eye for people, but he also wanted to know how far Wang Wan wanted the soldiers to learn. Thus, he went to Zhang Xiaobao to ask, "Tell me, what kind of soldiers does Cuckoo want? How long do they need to learn to pass?" "That'll be difficult. It'll take some time, and it'll probably take several decades to realize." Zhang Xiaobao did not give a specific answer, as there were some things that could not be said. He knew what kind of soldiers Wang Wan wanted. It was a real individual combat system, not like the current special forces in front, where a few people were in a group, with a radio, and within the range of the artillery. Instead, with individual mechanical assistance equipment, one person could connect with a satellite in the sky. Under the situation of interference, they could launch a strong electron beam and call for the launch of their own missiles. When they were within the range of their own electron control, they could manually guide the landing point of the missile. There were a lot of things to learn. Other than shooting, there was also the simple maintenance of one's own auxiliary machinery, electronic equipment malfunction detection, data encryption, concealment, and concealment. One also had to strengthen the psychological training. No matter how good the equipment was, there would be times when there would be problems. For example, if an electromagnetic bomb exploded in the sky, all the electronic equipment in the area would be burned out. Then, as a qualified warrior, he had to determine his own position without any assistance and stay there for a long time. At critical moments, everyone was the commander on the battlefield. With the current education system and technology, even if something was suddenly made, how many people would be able to use it? Li Longji didn't understand, so he asked again, "Why is it difficult?" "Because what Cuckoo wants is to be able to complete the tactical plan as soon as the map is brought over. When the three of them randomly meet, they can immediately launch a three-point cross attack. When they encounter turbulence, they can make their own swimming tools and give them a glider, and they can immediately find a place to take off. With a hot air balloon, they won't make any mistakes while flying. They can adapt to any terrain, be familiar with all weather conditions, be proficient in at least 4 languages, be able to calculate the basic elements of the ballistic trajectory, use the radio to send out messages, and at the same time, intercept the enemy's information, and so on." Zhang Xiaobao gave some examples. Li Longji and Wei Wei opened their mouths and waited for Zhang Xiaobao to finish. They looked at Zhang Xiaobao and asked, "Xiaobao, are you talking about people? Cuckoo can do it. I'm a little worse than her. After all, there are specializations in each field. If I were to team up with her, the effect would be better." Zhang Xiaobao spoke the truth. If he didn't have this ability, he would have been captured long ago. Li Longji couldn't say anything now. He looked at the sand table and muttered to himself, "Zhang Shogui, it's not easy." After scheming and scheming, in the end, he still fell for it because of his personality. "If I were him, I would fight it out with all of you. I definitely wouldn't have charged into Mount Huangshan. Not only is that a death trap for him, it's also an ambush for the Central Army. A large amount of supplies have been lost, including what the soldiers carried. The cannons have also been lost. This is all thanks to the fact that we were fighting the natives and determined that they wouldn't be able to use cannons. If only Cuckoo and Xiaobao didn't insist on using cold weapons. Your Majesty, please stop muttering. If we had the same equipment, would we have lost so many people? My logistics association is in charge of logistics, not piling up lives. These cannoneers are for them to use. Not only is it a waste, but it's also useless." Zhang Xiaobao admitted that a good weapon could obtain a certain advantage, but he didn't believe that a good weapon would guarantee victory, unless it was a nuclear weapon. "Then, if it were you, how would you fight?" Li Longji asked. He knew that Cuckoo still hadn't taught them much about cannons. One reason was that most of the cannons made of good steel were used on the ships. Another reason was that she was worried that if she taught too many cannons, some people would have ill intentions. This was especially the case for the cannons in the capital and the palace. They were monitored layer by layer. The generals and civil officials were all present, and the Zhang family and Wang family had also arranged for people to monitor them. He himself had also sent out eunuchs to monitor them. Those things were truly deadly. Li Longji wanted to ask how the cannoneers were arranged when attacking. Zhang Xiaobao thought for a moment, then said, "Cannoneers are used to attack the enemy's command center and the stubborn counterattack. In other words, they're used to attack the enemy's firing points. They are also used to cut off the enemy's defensive line from the front and back. Covering fire is actually used to suppress the enemy, to provide a short gap for the enemy to counterattack. If it were me, after I finished covering fire, I would focus on a certain line and repeatedly attack until all the enemies in that line are wiped out. Then, our army would charge through that line. Once we're there, it's simple. The cannons have to be used flexibly. Don't treat them like a massive object." "Xiaobao, you also understand economics? Didn't you specialize in economics?" Li Longji was very curious. "Am I stupid? No matter how stupid I am, after spending every day with Cuckoo, I've learned pretty much everything I need to learn." Zhang Xiaobao turned his head away. "Oh right, you can learn from each other. I didn't say that you couldn't pass it on." Li Longji gave his own understanding. Zhang Xiaobao didn't say anything, which could be considered a tacit agreement. Turning his head back to the sand table, he said, "Tell the people below not to do too well in their defense. The enemy doesn't have any more cannons. On the 737 high ground, if Zhang Shogui wants to fight, we'll just roll down boulders. When the boulders are gone, we'll roll down logs. When the logs are gone, we'll retreat and give him the high ground. Yes, rolling down boulders and logs. Little young master, where will we retreat to when the time comes?" The messenger was also in a very good mood, so he asked another question. "Retreat to the side and conserve our energy. If he chases, we'll just run for our lives. You messenger, what are you blindly asking for? Hurry up and go." Zhang Xiaobao waved his hand. The messenger shook his head and ran off. Li Longji also stood up and patted his butt. "We're going back to rest." Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The moment Li Longji arrived at the entrance of the central sand table, he heard the warm applause. Raising his head, he saw Fanju and the others bowing to express their gratitude. They had risked their lives to come to the central sand table and take a look at it before going back to rest. Zhao Hanzhong lowered his head and found a corner to sit down. He placed his hands between his legs and remained silent. Li Longji patted Fanju and the others on the shoulders and said, "Not bad. This was originally a high ground that could have been handed over at any time, but you actually made it the center of the battle. Continue to work hard." Fanju and the others nodded. They circled around the sand table, greeted the crowd, and then jogged out one by one. It seemed like they were looking for a place to eat and then go to sleep. Li Longji slowly walked over to Zhao Hanzhong's side and asked, "What are your thoughts?" Zhao Hanzhong lowered his head and said nothing. Li Longji wasn't in a rush either. After a while, Zhao Hanzhong raised his head and said, "With advanced weapons, what one should learn is control, not risk it. A lone army penetrating deep into enemy territory is a great taboo for a strategist. One must be extremely cautious." Li Longji replied, "The current great Tang is different from the past. In the past, in order to achieve victory and achieve one's goal, one didn't care about the deaths of a few people. They even had the common people prepare their own weapons and armor. But now, the people of Great Tang are worth money. Cannonballs and bullets are just money. Money can be earned, but where can one find lives?" Even though Cuckoo and Xiaobao were willing to pay any price when they gave their orders, the last thing they wanted was for the people of Great Tang to be sacrificed. Think more about it in the future. Even if you're fighting against the natives, there's no need to be too hasty. If you need ammunition, send it over later. If you need provisions, send it over as well. Remember. Zhao Hanzhong quietly listened. When Li Longji was done, he said, "Cuckoo and Xiaobao are going to fight against Duosher. I want to be the vanguard once more. I guarantee that I'll be steady." Let's talk about it later. Let's see if they agree. Li Longji couldn't make a decision, so he patted Zhao Hanzhang's shoulder and said, "Go eat something first and have a good night's sleep. When you wake up, come here and take a look." While others were summarizing their experiences, Zhang Shogui was doing the same. For hours later, he led his exhausted 4,500 men to the base of Highland 737. Looking at the model of Highland 737 on the sand table and the flag fluttering in the wind, he asked the messenger, "How many days of food do we have left?" Reporting, "According to the previous ration, we still have 2 days. If we cut it in half, we still have 4 days. Go around it and don't attack. We'll cut food in half. Go 20 li and find a slope to set up camp." Zhang Shogui hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he didn't dare attack Highland 737. Even though he could tell from a flag that Zhang Xiaobao was on the mountain, there was a high chance that Zhang Xiaobao would be declared dead if he attacked. Reporting, "We've discovered that Zhang Shogui's forces have taken a detour around the base of the mountain. Please make your decision," the messenger reported. They ran? They probably don't have enough provisions, the soldiers are tired, and they don't have any cannons. They want a rest, but how can that be? Pass on my order. 1,000 men go down and chase after them. Don't really catch up. Send another 1,000 men to coordinate with them. If the enemy leaves behind some troops to cover their retreat, then surround them. Small victories can lead to great victories. After giving out his order, Zhang Xiaobao happily smiled and said to the other members of the inner courtyard, "Did you see that? This is the first chapter of the harassment strategy, the initiative to attack. There's also the second chapter, the initiative to attack, and the third chapter." "Little young master, what's the difference between the two?" someone from the inner courtyard asked. "One emphasizes attacking, while the other emphasizes taking the initiative." "I'm just messing with you. What's the point of being so serious? The real strategy is to not let the enemy have an easy time, depending on the situation. When the enemy wants to rest, we have to keep them busy. When the enemy wants to find wild vegetables to eat, we have to let them smell the aroma of meat and smack their lips. When the enemy doesn't have any clothes to wear, we have to change out of them in an hour. In any case, we have to do whatever we can to disgust them." Zhang Xiaobao cheerfully explained. The people from the inner courtyard nodded, believing that the little young master was right. They had to attack, both physically and mentally. Even if the enemy managed to escape in the end, they had to leave behind some residual effects. While they were rejoicing, Zhang Shogui was cursing. "Slut, Zhang Xiaobao, you slut, I'm already like this, and you're still like this. Just what do you want to force me into? Leave 500 people to cover the retreat and increase the speed of the march." 15 minutes later, a messenger ran back, reporting, "We've successfully surrounded the enemy's rearguard. The pursuing troops have not engaged in battle." "Then, that's right. Send another 1,000 people to circle around and continue the pursuit. Send 500 people to the troops responsible for surrounding the enemy's rearguard. If the enemy leaves behind any rearguard, continue the encirclement." Zhang Xiaobao knew that his wife's 20,000 main force was still in Mount Huangshan, responsible for building the fortifications and restricting Zhang Shogui's movements. Even if he didn't pursue, it didn't matter. But if he could do something, then he could. Disgust others was also good. "Little young master, why are we surrounding them and not destroying them? Are you afraid of increasing casualties?" an inner courtyard member asked. Before Zhang Xiaobao could answer, another inner courtyard member spoke first. "I say you're Urbio, and you really are one. What's the point of killing 500 people? The troops left behind to cover the retreat are only for the sake of dying. All the food on them has definitely been given to others. Little young master wants to keep them and let them starve. Starvation is boring, so they'll naturally find a chance to fight for their lives. If we open the path and let them join up with the main force, will Zhang Shogui give them food to eat? If we give them too little, they won't be able to recover. If we give them too much, they'll have even less food left. You're the one who's Urbio. If you keep talking about me, I'll get angry with you. Do you think the little young master's schemes are as simple as you think? In truth, the little young master has another plan. It's to confuse Zhang Shogui. The weather is getting colder, the autumn leaves are yellow, and the autumn rain is continuous. We'll use the environment to deal with Zhang Shogui. When he hunts, he consumes bullets and only eats wild vegetables, making it difficult to replenish his strength. Isn't that right, little young master? The inner courtyard member, called Urbio, turned his head and asked Zhang Xiaobao. The two of you are too formidable. Even I didn't think of it. In truth, my plan is very simple. I just want a few of them to run out and send a message to their main force. Cuckoo and I have always hoped that their radios would be unblocked, but we don't think that's possible. Wang Yi's sniper battalion is still working. If they don't send a message, they still have 80,000 main force. How much strength do we have to use to fight them? We'll draw the enemy's main force over, and then we'll think of a way to delay the rest of the army in Hangzhou. Once we finish off their main force, what will they fight for? Zhang Xiaobao smiled as he spoke to the two, and then he gave a long sigh. War was far too difficult to fight. Strategically, one could look down on the enemy, and tactically, one could consider and scheme against the enemy. But how could the gap in weapons be so easily made up for? God damn it, no matter what, I can't let others learn my weapon techniques. Although in the end, the ones fighting in war are people, the quality of weapons can't be denied. Once I make the tractors, I'll have them research the tanks. It doesn't need to be able to withstand a lot of armor-piercing bullets, as long as it can withstand bows and large sabers. The tanks also don't need to be equipped with long-range cannons. I just need to leave some firing ports and place a few machine guns. Right, that's actually called an armored vehicle. Zhang Xiaobao mumbled, but his voice wasn't soft. Everyone in the inner courtyard heard him, and they were all very excited, anticipating the birth of a good weapon. Zhang Shogui was also excited. To be more precise, he was excited. When a person was forced to a certain extent, they would often become even more spirited. He was currently in such a situation. After dispatching 1,500 people to cover the rear 3 times, he finally led the exhausted troops to a hillside where water flowed through. For the time being, they could be considered to have settled down. Zhang Xiaobao, I'll remember you. In the future, even if you invite me to a meal, I won't go. We're comrades, so why are you forcing me? Unless you're cooking your own seafood, the abalones have to be 4 heads long, the sea jellyfish have to be next year, and the oysters have to be wild. I really won't eat. I won't give you face, but I'll do as I say. Zhang Shogui was also given a piece of corn. It was roasted, and he plucked the kernels one by one, tossed them into his mouth, and chewed with all his might, not even stopping him from speaking. The other generals in the room also became dissatisfied with Zhang Xiaobao. Look at you, Zhang Xiaobao. You're tormenting our General Zhang to the point of insanity. In the end, the great Tang General Yang Xishuan was able to determine the situation of the vanguard. When a portion of the Central Army was still in Hangzhou and had not come ashore, they received a report. The contents of the report showed that a radio relay station had lost contact with all the other troops. The main vanguard force had rushed to the front line of Mount Huangshan. The last news the other portion received was that a brigade had been crippled by the enemy and was surrounded. Emergency. Outside my relay station, more than 100 enemy troops have appeared and are searching for us. My station will fight with our lives on the line. This was the last news they received. When they sent a message to the relay station, there was no reply. After Yang Xishuan received this news, he closed his eyes and thought for a full hour. Just when everyone thought he had fallen asleep, he opened his eyes and sent a report to the other generals, calling for an impromptu meeting. All the generals, except for the vanguard general, left the room together after half a day of meeting and gathered outside the door of the central sand table. Li Longji had just woken up, taken a bath, and gotten a massage. He was in the middle of burning incense in a corner of the central sand table when he saw a group of people appear at the door. He stood up in surprise and asked, "Esteemed guests, this is?" Yang Xishuan took a step forward and said, "Your Majesty, we were not prepared enough," and hastily accepted the challenge. "We request a ceasefire and seal the sand table. Once we have thought things through, we will begin again." I hope that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo will agree. Seal the sand table? Then Cuckoo's military examination? This was the first question that came to Li Longji's mind. Just like Vanguard Zhang Shogui admits that he is in a difficult situation, we also admit that Cuckoo is fully deserving of being the champion of the military examination. Yang Xishuan did not ask for the specifics, but the meaning of his words was clear. Even if the sand table was sealed, his group of generals would not discuss the battle on the sand table. "Oh, that's fine too. Call Zhang Shogui over and ask him, huh?" When Li Longji thought of Zhang Shogui's current situation, he couldn't help but laugh. Zhang Shogui was called over. After hearing the words of the generals, he lightly nodded his head with an extremely unsightly expression. His voice trembling, he said, "I am the vanguard, the vanguard. I am currently, fine, I agree that Cuckoo is the champion, and Xiao Bao is the champion. Whoever disagrees can take my position and continue the battle." Chapter 1033. There was no need to mention just how sullen Zhang Shogui was. He had a belly full of words, but he couldn't say them. These generals were being too tactful. What certain difficulty? Couldn't they just drop the certain? It was a certain difficulty. Anyone who went up would know that those who entered the Yellow Mountain region were almost tormented to death by Zhang Xiaobao. When they hunted or got food to eat, he would launch sneak attacks. Most hateful of all was that when Zhang Xiaobao caught prey, he would not immediately snatch it away. Instead, he would feed the prey poison, and in the end, the prey caught by his own side would die in droves after eating it. Difficult, truly difficult. Even surviving was difficult. "Li Shi, you come, ha ha ha." Seeing Zhang Shogui's expression, Li Longji clutched his stomach and hid to the side. Gao Li Shi also knew how the battle was going. He wanted to find a place to laugh, but he had no choice but to accompany Li Longji. When he was called over, he used his hand to twist his leg and limped over. The expression on his face was as rich as one could imagine. "Gentlemen generals, it has been many days since we last met. It seems that all of you are still as cheerful as ever. Let's cut to the chase. Since all of you want to seal the deal, we should first ask Xiao Bao and Cuckoo if we agree." None of them spoke, not because they didn't want to give Gao Li Shi face, but because they didn't know what to say. "Since all my colleagues have tacitly agreed, come. Call over Xiao Bao and Cuckoo." Zhang Xiaobao was happily playing around in his room. When it came to setting up formations in battle, he wasn't too bad. After spending so many years with Wang Wan, even a fool would have learned a few things by now. But he loved to use them in this situation. Be it the battle of sparrow harassment, the battle of underground tunnels, the battle of throwing poison, the classic battle of using numbers to win, or the battle of bullying the weak. He used them all. He used them all in a nimble and versatile manner, reaching perfection in his execution. Look, the two sides clearly have about the same number of people, but Zhang Shogui doesn't dare to fight a fair battle with me. He always likes to play dirty. Is there anyone who does this? Is there? Zhang Xiaobao personally went to the front line and ordered his men to place the wild animals on a tree. They picked up the dry branches and skewered the wild animals for barbecue. The smoke and smell obviously drifted downwards, but the other party did not react at all. The several inner court students in the room were speechless. Did you see it this morning? I had 200 men annihilate 10 of their men who went to fetch water from the river. This is called a textbook battle of using superior numbers to attack the enemy's weak point. In the future, we will have to vigorously publicize this. Everyone should learn from this. Zhang Xiaobao continued to speak. In the inner courtyard, his face was already red. This was because 200 people had fought against 10 people, and 15 people had died. Furthermore, it was a sneak attack. When the last 2 people died, they had pressed the grenades under their bodies. That was how the referees judged. If one were to really talk about being in a textbook, it would be the 10 of them. Seeing that no one had any reaction, Zhang Xiaobao blushed and said, "Well, the annihilation battle in the morning wasn't good enough. Can you blame me? Give me a set of hunting tools and enough throwing knives, and I alone can take care of 10 of them. I can't personally command 200 people. If I were to be stunned by a single shot, your logistics commander would be gone. The referees will judge, and we have to hold on. We can't even protest. If we argue with the referees during a competition, wouldn't that be courting death? Little young master, I don't think you're to blame. That person was hit by 4 arrows. So why didn't he die? He could even pull the grenades, right?" A person supported Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao didn't appreciate this at all. What right? What do you know? If a team holds up the death flag and needs to blow up the enemy's trench, there will be a situation where a person's lower body is blown up, but he can still climb over and throw the grenade into the trench. Zhang Xiaobao remembered that Wang Wan had told him some things that she didn't want to disclose to the public. Many years ago, there was a death troop in the Chuan division of the National Army. The people in that troop were like their own men of sacrifice. They would twist their weapons to their necks and stick their spears to their chests. Just like the judgment of the military sand table, they wouldn't retreat even if they knew death. That was why he didn't say anything when he killed 15 people with a sneak attack. "Little young master, I can also climb over," the person who spoke earlier said loudly, and the others echoed in succession. I know. You're all from the inner courtyard. Now, I'm not asking you to climb. Think of a way. How to scheme against people. We can't let them have an easy time." Zhang Xiaobao didn't want to talk about this topic. He waved his hand and signaled the people in the room to play along with him. "Report, little young master. The emperor wants you to go to the central sand table." A messenger ran in. "What's wrong?" "I'm going over. You guys continue to think. If you come up with a good idea, I'll treat him to a big meal later." Zhang Xiaobao dropped this sentence and left gloomily. He was having a good time. When he came to the entrance of the central sand table, he met Wang Wan. The two looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. When they reached the entrance and saw a group of generals, the two were shocked. Looking at the expressions of the generals, Zhang Xiaobao stepped over the door and asked carefully, "What's wrong? Foreign enemies invade? Which side? I lend them 100 guts. The birthday girl hangs herself. Are they tired of living?" Wang Wan was also very surprised. She thought that the great Tang had encountered a military problem. Otherwise, why would all the generals gather here and call her and Xiaobao to the central sand table? Gao Lishur coughed softly and said to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, Don't worry. It's not a big deal. The situation is like this. The generals feel that you guys have too many trivial things to do. The military election has been going on for too long, and you guys are too tired. Therefore, they allow you to close the sand table." "Oh." Zhang Xiaobao responded softly. He looked at his godfather, Li Longji, and the others, and then at the generals, and smiled. He asked Wang Wan, "Cuckoo, are you tired?" "I'm not tired. It's quite relaxing. I'll treat it as a holiday. It's not easy to find such an opportunity normally." Wang Wan understood Zhang Xiaobao's meaning. "General Gao, look, Cuckoo and I aren't tired. It's fine. Let's continue. The other things are simple. Why waste the general's time? The two of us can't bear it." Zhang Xiaobao puffed out his chest, showing his determination to persevere to the end. Yang Xishuan couldn't help but say to Zhang Xiaobao, "But we're tired. From the start of the military election until now, we haven't had a good night's sleep. If we continue, we'll probably die from exhaustion before we die. Let's close the sand table. After we rest, we'll think about it carefully before continuing." Without waiting for Zhang Xiaobao to reply, Pei Guangting added, There's no need to worry about the military election. We all agree that Cuckoo can be the leader, and you'll be the second and third. What do you think? We won't discuss the results of the military election in private." The other generals stared at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, waiting for them to nod. They realized that they had underestimated their opponents. If they continued, their losses would be even greater, and the loss of face would not be small. It was better to stop and give themselves some time to think. Zhang Xiaobao's lips twitched, and he hesitantly said, "This isn't good, right? If we directly give the champion to the top scorer, we'll feel ashamed. Since everyone is tired, why don't we rest for a few days and then continue?" "It's not bad. We've already agreed." Moreover, Vanguard Zhang also said that he had a certain amount of difficulty. "You used cold weapons, which means that you're very capable," making Vanguard Zhang feel some difficulty. "Isn't that right, General Zhang?" Yang Xixuan asked Zhang Shogui for confirmation. Zhang Shogui just stared at the ground, probably looking for a crack, a bigger one. He didn't say anything, only nodded. Zhang Xiaobao held back his laughter, looked at Zhang Shogui, and asked Wang Wan, "Madam, is General Zhang having trouble? I think he's pretty tenacious." Zhang Shogui lowered his head even more, his face flushed red. Wang Wan could not bear to watch this any longer. She rolled her eyes at Zhang Xiaobao and said, "I guess so. Since the generals have brought it up, then—" "Your Majesty," Li Longji hastily said, "I agree. It's spring, and summer will be coming soon. I'd like to check on the progress of the railroad at Lu Zhou's place. Everyone is busy, so let's seal it first. Cuckoo is the top scorer in the military election." "Your Majesty, isn't that a little inappropriate?" Zhang Xiaobao still insisted. "The people are waiting for spring to come to the hibiscus garden to see the flowers. Xiaobao, you can't be too selfish and make the people sad just for your own enjoyment, understand?" Li Longji said with a hidden meaning. Zhang Xiaobao understood. Li Longji was telling him that he could not go on and on just because he was having fun bullying Zhang Shogui. He glanced at Zhang Shogui and nodded. "All right, the flowers in the hibiscus garden are blooming. If you don't mind the cold, we can hold a feast. Cuckoo and I aren't bullying anyone, right, General Zhang?" Zhang Shogui grunted and said, "That's right. Don't treat me to a meal in the future unless you cook it yourself." "No problem. I know you like to eat things from the sea. Four-headed abalone, seasoned sea cucumber, cold cucumber, wild oysters, steamed hairtail. I'll cook. I'll cook it myself." Zhang Xiaobao agreed with a smile. "How did you know?" Zhang Shogui was taken aback. "If I didn't have this ability, would Cuckoo and I have the confidence to stand in the military election? As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll never be defeated. Gathering information before a battle is very important. You ate so much seafood from my Blue Seas Silver Sand restaurant." "What did I say?" Zhang Xiaobao finally spoke the truth. Zhang Shogui and the other generals were stunned. They were not fools. They began to recall how much they had eaten for free. So this was the cause and effect of everything. "You, Zhang Xiaobao, you're not being honest." Zhang Shogui managed to squeeze out a sentence. "It's fine as long as the food and wine are authentic. Later, I'll treat you to Savant's restaurant. Congratulations to my wife for being the top scorer. It's not easy. We'll open the restaurant when you're ready." Zhang Xiaobao and Wei Wei smiled. They did not argue. After all, the winner had to be magnanimous. Li Longji seized the opportunity. "So Xiaobao, you've agreed?" "I've agreed," Zhang Xiaobao replied happily. "Good. Make the arrangements. I'll personally go to Lu Zhou to eat seafood. I heard it's warm there," Li Longji said. Zhang Xiaobao turned to look at Li Longji. "Agreed to what?" "You agreed to let me go to Lu Zhou to check on the progress of the railroad. I'll have to trouble you along the way," Li Longji said. Zhang Xiaobao seemed troubled. He looked at Wang Wan. Wang Wan shrugged. Zhang Xiaobao had no choice but to settle this himself. "Your Majesty, most people are gathering in Jiang province now. The gunships." "Eh? Your Majesty, that's fine. I agree to let you go to Luzhou. If the others agree, we'll go. We'll take the water route first before we switch to the land route. What do you think? As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he hesitated for a moment before agreeing to Li Longji's request. The generals, as well as the civil officials, looked at each other, but no one made a sound. The generals supported the idea of the emperor going out for a walk. They were also in charge of protecting him, so they were not opposed to it. Moreover, with Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan around, if something really happened, then it would be unsafe no matter where he was. For example, the hibiscus garden. There were 3 layers of protective intelligence. The court had 1, the emperor had 1, and the Zhang family and the Wang family had 1. The civil officials had no reason to object. In the past, they were worried that the emperor would spend too much money on traveling and that the national treasury would be tight. Now, the emperor had his own money and the funds provided by Zhang Xiaobao. When Li Longji saw Zhang Xiaobao agreeing, he was delighted. He said, "Let me think about it. You want to follow Xiaobei and the others to Jiang province?" Zhang Xiaobao nodded. "Yes. I'll make a stop in Hangzhou and visit my mother, Cuckoo's mother, and my relatives." "Relatives? That's good as well. I'll go and visit them as well. Some of them I haven't seen in a long time. Back then, they helped me a lot. Otherwise, how could your father have a chance? He's been tossing and turning for a few years now. Time has never stopped. He's always thinking about his mother and putting in a lot of effort. Sometimes, he doesn't even care about his family." Li Longji looked up at the ceiling and reminisced. His words were filled with emotions. Then, he changed the topic and laughed. "If it weren't for him, how could there be the Tang Empire that I have now? Not to mention the cute Xiaobei and the others. Haha, just like the story that Cuckoo told Xiaobei and the others, everything is predetermined. Okay, go. I'll also prepare a gift." Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't know how to respond. They could only smile at each other. Li Longji's words had also evoked memories of the 2 of them. Along the way, they still looked back. "Seal the sand table." Li Longji gave the order. The sand table used for the competition was sealed and specially assigned people to guard it. Tourists were not allowed to go near it. The hibiscus garden was so big that it didn't lack this place to play. When the order to seal the sand table was given, the more than 3,000 people in the competition, the people in charge of logistics, and the people in the judging panel relaxed. Of course, from today until the sand table was reopened, they were not allowed to talk about the situation of the sand table. Otherwise, if they were found out, they would be severely punished. In reality, even if the participants were asked, they wouldn't say anything. Those who were chosen all had their own dignity. Many of the people of the Great Tang now had this spirit. They disdained to play tricks in a fair competition in the country. Everyone left one after another. Some went home to meet with their families and then sleep. Some went to find food, some went to bathe, and some went on dates. More and more people were leaving. The commoners who occasionally passed by outside saw this. When they saw a large group of people leaving, the first thing they thought was that the martial arts examination had ended. Immediately, the commoners were divided into 2 groups, those who reported and those who waited. Those who waited immediately ran over and asked those who came out, "How was it? How was it? Who won?" That was the case. Those who were asked didn't dare to put on airs and deliberately kept it a mystery. This was because they understood that even if the emperor was asked, he would also tell the commoners. Thus, they all smiled and nodded, giving the commoners the most satisfactory answer. The generals proposed to seal the sand table and admit that Wang Wan won first place in the martial arts examination and Zhang Xiaobao won second. The people who asked were indeed satisfied. They cheered and squeezed out as if they wanted to tell this news to the entire world. "Xiaobao, look, the commoners support you," Li Longji said to Zhang Xiaobao as he listened to the sound of firecrackers. "They don't just support Cuckoo. They want to further solidify the image of the war god in their hearts. As long as the image of the war god Cuckoo doesn't collapse and they don't lose, The commoners of the Great Tang will feel that their lives are very stable. Today, when they hear that Wang Wan has failed and can't become the top scorer, their first thought is that the person who answered is lying. They don't want to admit that the protector in their hearts has disappeared. Thus, Cuckoo is under a lot of pressure. After defeating Duosher, she shouldn't personally lead the army. Defeating Duosher is to solidify her image. In the future, even if the other generals of the Great Tang are at a disadvantage, the commoners of the Great Tang won't worry. If Cuckoo doesn't lose, the Great Tang won't lose. Zhang Xiaobao analyzed the thoughts of the commoners. Li Longji understood immediately. The symbolic meaning is greater than the actual meaning. According to this, you have to make perfect preparations before going to war. You can't lose. If you really can't, you have to first gain a little advantage, and then stop to defend. In the Great Tang, you have to announce that you won, and Cuckoo's image must be maintained. Zhang Xiaobao chuckled. Li Longji knew quite a lot, and knew how to lie. However, Wang Wan frowned and said, "Don't build me up. What should be built is the army of the Great Tang. After a few victories, we have to give the commoners the impression that as long as the Great Tang army is mobilized, there will be no defeat and no defeat." The crowd walked out. Those who wanted to enter the hibiscus garden after the military selection were not in a hurry. They all stood by the roadside and watched. There were also those who had just received the news and rushed over. There were even some who ran over to send the news. Most of them were businessmen. They had business partners in various places and were promptly notified. The news was spread to all parts of the Great Tang at the fastest speed. It was much more important than Zhang Xiaobao being the top scorer. Survival instincts and safety were the first priority. After that, it was the pursuit of other aspects, such as prices, product types, and so on. There were many people, but they were orderly. They all stood by the sides of the road, and no one stepped forward. If anyone wanted to, the people beside them would not allow it. They were afraid that there would be spies who would harm Zhang Xiaobao and Cuckoo. Thus, other than trusting themselves, they even looked at their neighbors with suspicion. The weather today was not bad. There was no wind, and there was plenty of sunlight. After the spring rain, it was getting warmer day by day. Wearing 2 layers of clothes, it was not cold to stand outside. Seeing that the road was narrow, Li Longji did not take a carriage. Instead, he called Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and slowly walked in the direction of the royal palace. At this speed, it would take at least 2 hours. As they walked, they could hear the sounds of firecrackers and cheers. Occasionally, they could hear the shop assistants shouting, "What's free today?" This can be considered a kind of glory, right? It feels like there are singers, movie stars, and even sports stars. It's very lively. Cuckoo, don't you feel proud to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with those stars? Zhang Xiaobao looked at the lively scene and said, "You can't speak blindly. How can I compare to them? Others have fainted while surrounding them, but I'm far from it. Everyone is standing properly, and no one has tried to get close to them. That's not enthusiastic enough." Wang Wan was in a good mood, so she also teased along with Zhang Xiaobao. Li Longji did not care about this. He nudged Zhang Xiaobao and asked, "Xiaobao, when are we leaving? The construction of the railway can't be delayed." "How about tomorrow? Let me prepare for a day," Zhang Xiaobao said. Chapter 1034. Li Longji hurried back to the palace to prepare for the trip under the pretext of going on an inspection trip. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also returned home and began to work on the trip, such as safety, intelligence, supplies, the route, where to stop, whether to speak in the local area, and so on. Li Longji is lucky to have met us. He decided to stay today and leave tomorrow. He wants to test our efficiency. He just came back from Jili province and has to leave again before he even warms his seat. Zhang Xiaobao pulled over the map and looked at it while complaining to Wang Wan. He seemed very dissatisfied. Wang Wan sat beside him and looked at the intelligence sent today. She skimmed through it one by one. Occasionally, She would stop and carefully think about the things mentioned in the intelligence reports to decide if she should respond. Hearing Zhang Xiaobao's muttering, she tilted her head and looked at him. Xiaobao, why do I feel like you're praising yourself? You're so capable that you can prepare for the emperor's trip in less than a day. You even let the emperor travel. You should leave a deep mark in history, right? It doesn't need to be deep. It just needs to be carved on a stone. Then, it will be passed down from generation to generation. It will be passed down from generation to generation. It will leave my mark in the blue sky, my voice in the tide, my whisper in the valley, my legend in the wind, the mountains, the trees, the rolling yellow sand, the snowfield, and in the textbooks of the medical school. If anyone has a similar illness in the future, they will all be classified as Zhang Xiaobao symptoms. It will be passed down to every family. What's there to say? Later, I'll get someone to spread the news. Xiao Bei and the others can stay in Hangzhou for a few more days. When we arrive, we'll go to Jiangzhou together. Do you think we should let your father go? Wang Wan listened to Zhang Xiaobao daydream. When it was about time, she took over and talked about serious matters. Logically speaking, my father should go and visit his father-in-law. However, he didn't invite him. If he goes there alone, it will seem like he's lowering his status. It's better to wait a little longer. I think the other party is also worried that my father won't go. It was said that one shouldn't bully a young man for being poor. Everyone knew this principle. The problem was that there were many young men, but there weren't many who were successful. If one didn't bully them, one should just let the young men bully them. Only successful people were qualified to turn around and say this. As a young person, you shouldn't always mention it. For example, I've never mentioned it since I was young. Your family didn't bully me either. It must be my handsome appearance, pure eyes, and kind heart that moved your family. Zhang Xiaobao was happy again. Anyway, there was no one else in the house. Wang Wan gently bit her lips as she listened to Zhang Xiaobao. She couldn't help but laugh out loud. He reached out and pushed Zhang Xiaobao away. Get away from me. Disgusting. If your family didn't have the same zhuangzi as mine, if your mother didn't have a different background, and if your father didn't study hard for the imperial examinations, why would my family like you? I'm the only one who can treat you better. Seeing that you're pitiful, I'll give you a bowl of porridge and a piece of candy. I'll also give you a set of clothes that my family has worn before. You can go back and change them. It'll be enough for you to be happy for a year. I don't need a set of clothes. If that's the case, even if you give me a few bundles of straw, I'll be grateful to your family for the rest of my life. If there's a chance to make a fortune in the future, I'll take the initiative to bring you to your family. I'm a person who knows how to repay kindness. Unfortunately, I thought you would run away with Liang Shanhua like the Zhu Yingtai in the story. While Zhang Xiaobao was talking, he picked up the pen and drew the route on the map. It was done. Wang Wan closed the letter, blinked her eyes, and smiled. She said, I believe you. Oh, right, you're different from others. You're not afraid of being an orphan. It seems that my choice was right. I didn't agree to be with you at that time. If I didn't watch you, who knows what would happen to the Tang Empire when you went crazy? Well, I'll allow you to shout don't bully a poor young man. Even if you're Liang Shanhua, you're much better than the one in the story. Well, look at this Iluo. Rest early today. After giving the information on Iluo to Zhang Xiaobao, Wang Wan took a spool beside her and began to embroider. Zhang Xiaobao saw that Wang Wan began to embroider. He opened the letter helplessly. What do you think is there to see? Our intelligence personnel have already dealt with it. Just turn a page, and we don't need to do anything. For example, on this page, it says, Allah? What a familiar name. Who is he? Do you have any impression of him? Allah, the Allah of the sect of Islam. Wang Wan said, without raising her head. Yes, he's the leader of the sect of Islam. But why is he in Jiangzhou? Cuckoo, stop embroidering. They are preaching there. We haven't fought yet. They came here first. I was wondering why there was something strange there. Zhang Xiaobao shook the information in his hand. His eyes were wide open, and he couldn't believe it. Wang Wan was also stunned. She stopped what she was doing and thought carefully. Then she said, "In fact, it has been there for a long time. I've read the introduction before. Didn't they start preaching in Guangzhou? Did they enter the Yangtze River along the sea? You mean they want to do something bad? Take the initiative to attack?" Zhang Xiaobao held his chin in his hand and frowned. He thought hard and muttered, "Is there a direct connection?" I hate religion the most. Many wars have the shadow of religion behind them. Did the officials of the Jiangnan West Road believe in religion? And then they want the Tang Empire to play around? In theory, it's impossible. What can the sect of Islam provide to the local officials? Faith? The Tang Empire has its own faith. We don't believe in Taoism. We don't believe in the suppressed Buddhism. Why do we have to believe in the sect of Islam? I'm not used to the sudden change. Zhang Xiaobao fell into deep thought and didn't say anything. He was thinking about how to connect the sect of Islam with the unusual things that happened in the Jiangnan West Road, but he couldn't find the link. Wang Wan stopped embroidering. She took the information and read it carefully. The information was very simple. Recently, there has been a word of Allah quietly spreading in the market. It hasn't become a big harm. Many people don't believe it. Occasionally, there will be officials. Ask them to do idle things. Give them as gifts. Increase money. Don't wait. It didn't seem to be a big deal. The propagation of the doctrine was not so smooth. It was too high to attribute the abnormal development of the Jiangnan West Road to the sect of Islam. Turning another page, Wang Wan continued to read. This page wrote the situation of the goods. Along the south bank of the river after the spring, there are more cheap seafood or dried sea shrimps or salted fish, which has a slight impact on the local river's aquatic products. Zhang Wang's trading group has already taken action to balance the situation. They are buying at a fair price down to the Wanshui River and stored in Suzhou. They are collecting the aquatic products of Lake Tai in Suzhou and sending them to the Debi Mountains in the northwest of Suzhou. In addition, the cheap seafood sold by the Jiangnan West Road has been investigated. They are from Japanese cargo ships. My Japanese branch has sent the news that there are many fish in the Japanese archipelago, and the price is cheap. They also learned the method of drying salt. Therefore, they made dry products and didn't hesitate to waste people's strength on long-distance transportation. They sold them to the Jiangnan West Road to obtain the Tang Empire's money. They bought the Tang Empire's local goods and returned to Japan. Each trip, the profit is 10 times. Seeing this, Wang Wan laughed. Haha, the Japanese are really smart. They know the trade gap. The Tang Empire doesn't impose tariffs on seafood and knows how to make long-distance transportation. Xiaobao, it seems that your strategy needs to be improved. There are loopholes in your trade offensive. What loopholes? Zhang Xiaobao put down his arms and asked. It can actually let the Japanese come over to make a lot of money. If it's not a loophole, what is it? It has a big impact on the Jiangzhou fishery industry. The information is simple, but if the impact is not big, why did my trading group take action to balance the situation? Wang Wan handed the information over. Zhang Xiaobao picked it up and looked at it. He smacked his lips and said, "It's very normal. Why should I limit the price of seafood? Seafood is rich in nutrients. The people in the interior of the Tang Empire can't eat it. Since the Tang Empire needs it, we don't impose additional tariffs. Yes, the real mistake is the people in the Jiangzhou fishery industry. They are waiting for my family to take action to balance the situation. Can't they think of a way to further improve the situation? Don't they know how to build a brand? Don't they organize the sales department to open new markets? Oh, according to you, pitiful people must have something hateful? Do you think it's all because of you? They have just been hit and haven't had time to react. What I'm asking is why you don't collect export taxes from the Japanese." Wang Wan was not in the mood to embroider anymore. She put the brackets back. Zhang Xiaobao understood what Wang Wan meant. If the Tang Empire's merchants did not collect export taxes from the Japanese, they would have to sell their products at a lower price than the Japanese. Otherwise, it would encourage more Japanese to buy their products and sell them back. At that time, they would still have to collect export taxes. Although it would affect a large number of Japanese merchants, it would also form the psychological habit of the Japanese of fixing the price of certain products. It would be difficult for the Tang Empire's merchants to sell their products at a higher price. The main reason was that they could not afford to wait so long to slowly wear down the Japanese. But Zhang Xiaobao felt wronged. How can I not collect them? I have collected all the key products. In order to show fairness, I even collected export taxes from the Tang Empire's merchants. But I have an export tax rebate for the Tang Empire's merchants. Of course, the Japanese need our products urgently. If they can buy it with their money, they will be very happy. It's impossible for them to collect tariffs from us. Otherwise, I would have to consider whether to give them subsidies. So, I feel that the products that the Japanese bought are not within the scope of the products that I set. In that case, the Japanese are very smart. They can find new things and make money. As he spoke, Zhang Xiaobao patted his forehead. It was really impossible to guard against. Wang Wan laughed again. The Japanese are smart to begin with, and they're extraordinarily smart. It's impossible for the intelligence agency at home to report in too much detail. Why didn't they say what the Japanese bought and let someone investigate it alone? After the investigation, you can think of a way to deal with it. Investigate. Zhang Xiaobao spat out a word. The information was quickly reported back. There was no need to report to the Jiangnan West Road. The information that was handed to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had been screened by the intelligence personnel in Beijing and could be sent back immediately. Wow, this works. Zhang Xiaobao saw the information about the products that the Japanese bought and gave a thumbs up. Awesome. We have to deal with the Japanese as soon as possible. If we let them slow down, they might not be easy to deal with. Let me see. What did they buy? Wang Wan snatched the information. When she saw it, she was stunned at first, and then nodded in admiration. They are so smart. They bought chicken chicks and cheap feed. They are 1-month-old chicks. Then they put them in bamboo cages and take the boat back. They are raised on the way back. When they arrive in Japan, they are more than 2 months old, 3 months old. If the weather is bad, they will be 4 months old. They are sold as soon as they get off the boat. This is a new breed of chicken promoted in the Tang Empire. The meat is tender and the price in the Tang Empire is average. Some businessmen send them to other countries to sell them at a very high price. Why didn't they think of raising them on the way back? Yes. I hope that all the chickens on their boat will die of the chicken plague in the future. Otherwise, they will fall into the sea. It is not good to be too smart. Oh no. We have to tell the customs not to let the Japanese ship carrying chickens into the Yangtze River. What if they come back with some sick chickens? What if they pass the disease to our chickens? We have to strictly control the hygiene of livestock, poultry, and fresh goods. Zhang Xiaobao suddenly thought of this very important matter. Which family raised these things? If they all died one day, the whole family would feel like hanging themselves. Wang Wan also reacted. Just like the locust trap you used on Tubo. Xiaobao, you said that even if the Japanese did not deliberately spread the disease, our Tang Empire would not have diseases of its own. The medical school can't keep up with the speed. You have to think of a solution. Me? What solution do I have? I don't know how to treat diseases. I can only advocate the general idea of raising animals. For example, disinfection. If they really fall ill, they can only bear with it. If they can't even treat humans, how can they spare the effort to treat animals? It can't be that the Tang Empire's imperial court or Li Longji's money is used to see whose livestock and poultry die, and then compensate them, right? If it is a natural disaster, it can be done. If the disease is found in a certain area, it can be compensated by killing all the livestock and poultry in the area. Zhang Xiaobao started to have a headache. This development was too fast, and the various industries couldn't keep up. If a single industry stood out, it would be like the wooden bucket principle, leaking everywhere. But if he waited for the other industries to develop together, how long would he have to wait? 10,000 years was too long, and he could only seize every moment. Wang Wan also temporarily put aside the various problems of the Jiangnan West Circuit. She picked up a piece of beef jerky and put it in her mouth. She also worried about it. After a while, Wang Wan swallowed the last bit of beef jerky and nudged Zhang Xiaobao. Xiaobao, let's set up an insurance company. You're in charge of the Great Tang Bank, so it's more convenient for you to compensate. We can't always rely on the imperial court's finances, your family's money, and Li Longji's money. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head vigorously. Don't you know how many insurance scams there are? If the mechanism is not perfect or the technology is not up to par, if a family raised 100 chickens and found that they couldn't sell them, they would all die. They would say that the chickens died of illness, and they would have to compensate. Would you pay? Do you know whether the chickens died of illness or not? You have to know how simple the people of Great Tang are, and there's also your economic appeal. Insurance is actually a profitable industry. Who would cause problems for no reason? Gather the wealth of the masses to save the masses from their troubles. Give it a try? Try it among the merchants first, and if it's successful, we can promote it to the common people. Wang Wan continued to urge Zhang Xiaobao. She considered that there would be insurance scammers, but there wouldn't be many of them. Furthermore, one couldn't always scam others. As the people in charge of verification grew more and more experienced, this industry would become more and more perfect. No one could say that once a system appeared, there wouldn't be any loopholes. It could be gradually improved. If one didn't do it, it would forever be a dream. Zhang Xiaobao looked at Wang Wan, then stood up and walked to the door. He pushed open the door and looked at the sky. The sky was clear, and there weren't many clouds. Only a few cotton-like white clouds floated in the windless sky, looking very leisurely. Occasionally, a bird would fly by, and the sunlight would shine down, adding a hint of warmth to it. Sometimes, I don't even want to think about the purpose of life. I'm afraid that if I think about the development and ending of everything, I won't even be able to find the meaning of life. That's why I walk with my head down. With every step I take, I can feel the strength returning to me. That's why I have a sense of existence. Since you said that you want to set up an insurance company, then we'll set up one. It's not for the sake of the common people, nor is it for vanity. It's just because you said that we should find more things that can make us more fulfilled. Without goals and challenges, that's the tragedy of life. I like peace and calmness, but it's not the calmness at the beginning. It's the calmness of Dugu Chobai, holding a hoe, and listening to a group of people who can't even hold a sword properly discuss sword techniques. When he looks back, there's a trace of a peaceful smile on his face. Tomorrow, we'll set off with Li Longji. When we're on the boat, we'll have a good talk with him. Ask him if he wants a share. Just one share, no more than that. Absolutely not. After looking at the sky for a while, Zhang Xiaobao said these words. He turned around and sat down, looking very energetic. Wang Wan looked at Zhang Xiaobao and revealed a sweet smile. Hurry up and finish what you're doing. Sleep early tonight. I haven't been able to sleep well recently. You have to eat a tortoise pot for dinner, the kind with ginseng. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The next day, Li Longji woke up with dark circles under his eyes. He had been dreaming the previous night and couldn't sleep well at all. He tossed and turned, and occasionally felt thirsty. When he woke up, he even wanted to drink tea. In the end, he couldn't sleep at all. Since he was young, he had never been to the sea in the south. He had only heard about it from others, looked at the models in the palace, and ate the local specialties there. He had always yearned for the sun, the beach, and the coconut forest. Now he finally had the chance to experience it for himself. It wasn't easy. In his dream, he even grew wings and flew with the seagulls. With a flap of his wings, he flew a few li away. With another flap of his wings, he woke up. The thin blanket covering him, had fallen to the ground. It was cold. Xiao Bao is such a scammer. When he went to Jilin province, he had to choose winter. I didn't even get to bathe in the sea once. It's on purpose. I guarantee it's on purpose. I'll get to bathe in this time, right? Didn't they say that it's always warm there? Take it away. I don't eat breakfast. When we get to the boat, I'll have Xiao Bao make it. I'll eat more on an empty stomach. Li Longji was helped by a palace made to put a hot towel on his eyes. While he was trying to get rid of the dark circles under his eyes, he didn't stop talking. As he spoke, he waved his hand and had someone take the porridge away. When the sun rose high in the sky, Li Longji saw Zhang Xiaobao. When Zhang Xiaobao saw that he hadn't slept well, he said, "Your Majesty, in the future, when you have insomnia at night, when you wake up early in the morning and don't eat anything, you can drink some warm wine to help your complexion become more rosy." What did you dream about? I dreamed that you made 200 different dishes for me. We'll eat at noon. Why aren't you going to prepare them? Li Longji said angrily. Oh, I thought you were dreaming about the important matter I wanted to discuss with you today. The important matter of making money. Since that's the case, I'll go prepare the dishes. Zhang Xiaobao turned around and left. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.